Chapter 698. Qi Kuang understood that the current atmosphere was like this. Family background and appearance were the most important. If one wanted to become an official, one's family background was the most important, followed by appearance. Ability, conduct, and talent were the last. Big bosses were obsessed with appearance. Qi Kuang was capable but not good-looking. He had worked hard for many years to climb to the position of centurion. Jiang Pingji heard this and asked Qi Kuang in surprise. I recruited you because of your talent, ability, and loyalty. Does it have anything to do with your appearance? She was amused and supported her forehead with her hand. She looked at Qi Kuang with a firm gaze. Whether you are beautiful or ugly has nothing to do with me. After all, shouldn't the person who cares about appearance be the one beside you? If you surrender, I will be the master and you will be the subject. How can the relationship between the master and the subject be equal to that of a husband and wife? As the master, I only need you to train the navy for me. Nothing else is important. Are you saying that if you are good-looking you can train a more elite navy for me? Appearance was not a buff. It could not increase the strength of the entire army. Jiang Pingji wanted to recruit talents. She was not recruiting a vase. Qi Kuang was speechless, but the grudge in his heart was gone. After thinking about it, he gritted his teeth and said, "Thank you for your kindness, my lord. I will do my best to train an elite army for you." Feng Zhen had already convinced Qi Kuang to surrender. Jiang Pingji had also made it clear that she did not mind his appearance. Qi Kuang was naturally willing to surrender. Since you have this determination, I will naturally support you with all my strength. Now is not the right time. It is not convenient for me to assign people to you. When you return to Wanzhou, you can select 3,000 elites as reserves for the navy. I will not interfere with how they are trained or what they need. It is taboo for an outsider to guide an expert in military training. I will not add to your troubles. There is only one thing you must remember. I want to see the elite army you speak of. Although Jiang Pingji did not directly say it, Qi Kuang could hear how much authority and freedom she had given him. As long as the navy was established, he would be the commander of the navy. No matter how much Qi Kuang thought about it, he did not expect Jiang Pingji to give him such a big promise. Thank you for your kindness, my lord. Qi Kuang bowed. I will not disappoint you. The dust had settled. Jiang Pingji, Feng Zhen, and Qi Kuang were all very satisfied. Only the live stream viewers were a little disappointed. Because of Qi Kuang, the overall attractiveness of Jiang Pingji's group had been pulled down by several percentage points. Wasn't watching the live stream for the sake of looking at one's face? However, this mood did not last long. Their impression of Qi Kuang had greatly improved. Even though Qi Kuang was ugly and had a lame leg, he was a man of great learning. His ancestors had been dealing with the water for generations. The first few generations were fishermen who lived along the river. When it came to his grandfather and father's generation, they became soldiers and dealt with the pirates along the river all year round. Growing up in such a family, Qi Kuang's foundation was much stronger than others. Full of confidence, he sought refuge with Yang Jian. He wanted to fulfill his ambitions and bring honor to his ancestors. He was like a young man who had just graduated from university and entered society. His chest was full of passion, but he had hit a wall in the face of reality. Because he was too ugly and one of his legs was slightly disabled, he had served under Yang Jian for 7 years. He had followed the Lord into hundreds of battles on the water and brushed past the King of Hell more than 10 times. Even now he was still a centurion. However, he was not discouraged because of this. Instead, he became more diligent in his studies, but his temperament was not as enthusiastic as before. Now that Jiang Pingji had promised him great authority, Qi Kuang felt his blood, which had been silent for a long time, begin to heat up and boil again. Qi Kuang told Jiang Pingji many of his experiences, insights, and methods for training the navy. He even used the battles he had personally experienced as examples. He was reasonable and had evidence. He was not simply an armchair strategist. Jiang Pingji listened very seriously. Qi Kuang's level of education stopped at the level of writing and recognizing words. He had not studied deeply, so his literary talent was not good. However, he had a strong grasp of the rhythm of the story. His logic was very clear. Even the most mundane examples, when they came out of his mouth, could be described with great interest. At first glance, Jiang Pingji was very satisfied with this future commander of the navy. At the same time, Qi Kuang also gave his new lord a 5-star evaluation. He had originally thought that Jiang Pingji did not know the ropes. Unexpectedly, not only did she know, but she could also hit the nail on the head. Her questions were rather incisive. As the conversation between the two deepened, the livestream viewers became Qi Kuang's fans. Exploding Gung Baigon, people who work hard are the most handsome. Qi Kuang is not good-looking, but he has quite a temperament when he's serious. Chiyue Piao, ditto, I agree. What one looks like is given by one's parents. It's not like one can choose. Even if one is ugly, one has human rights. Chiyue Piao, although I'm also a person who values appearances, I can't just casually attack someone else's appearance. It's not easy to make a conclusion without knowing much about Qi Kuang. However, a person chosen by the streamer is definitely not bad. I believe in the streamer's judgment. If Qi Kuang becomes successful in the future, it will be a live drama about the rise of the grassroots. Sounds very inspirational, so I plan to be his fan. The conversation lasted for more than 2 hours. Jiang Pingji was energetic as usual, but Qi Kuang and Feng Zhen could not take it anymore. Looking at the sky outside, it was indeed getting late. I'm tired too. If there's anything else, let's talk tomorrow. Go and rest now. When Feng Zhen heard this, he felt as if he had been granted amnesty. He called out to Qi Kuang and the two of them left together. Jiang Pingji was full of energy. After they left, she was still thinking about Qi Kuang's method of training the Navy. Although Qi Kuang's method of training the Navy was very different from the current trend, Jiang Pingji admired it very much. However, if she were to build a navy, it would be a huge expense. Jiang Pingji rubbed her forehead as she felt a headache coming on. Because of the outdated technology of ship manufacturing and geographical restrictions, the size of the navy was limited. It could only be limited to a specific area. However, there was no lack of far-sighted people in the world. These people did not give up on the navy. Instead, they actively created the conditions and put it into practice. In the southern region, water bandits ran amok. In order to curb the development of water bandits and protect the people along the coast, the navy became a necessary force. Compared to the soldiers on land, the requirements for the navy were higher and stricter in terms of order, discipline, and cooperation. In other words, daily training and exercises were even more necessary for the navy than for the soldiers on land. This also meant that the expenses were higher. In the next few years, the navy might not have the opportunity to go to the battlefield. In Qi Kuang's words, it was like raising idlers. As time went on, it was inevitable that it would cause others to gossip. However, this was not a problem. If Jiang Pingji said she wanted to train the navy, who would dare to stop her? So what if she was criticized as an idler? As the Lord, she did not mind spending money on the navy. Why would outsiders complain? She rested her chin on her left hand and twirled a brush with her right. She spread out a clean piece of white paper on the table, thinking about how to start. Chapter 699. My Dong, what is the streamer drawing? A ship? There was no one else in the tent except for her. Jiang Pingji took the time to answer the audience's questions. Host V, these are ships, but I know too little about ships from ancient times. There isn't enough information on warships for reference. Jiang Pingji was well-read and had read almost all kinds of miscellaneous books. Many of them had descriptions of ships. She picked out the contents one by one, then turned the words into pictures and drew them on the paper. However, the warships in her imagination were very different from actual warships. Host V. Not only does a powerful navy need elite soldiers, but it also needs indestructible warships. According to my understanding, shipbuilding technology is still quite backward. Most of them are civilian fishing boats that can only be used in rivers or shallow waters. As for war, such small ships are almost useless. Military warships still need to be built, otherwise the navy will not be complete. Jiang Pingji entrusted the task of training the sailors to Qi Kuang. She still needed to solve the problem of warships herself. Jiang Pingji, building a ship with just your imagination? Feels like it will capsize. Should I get a reference? Jiang Pingji's eyes flickered slightly. A reference? That's not a bad idea. The next day, Jiang Pingji summoned Feng Zhen. You've already lured Qi Kuang over. There's no need to trouble two masters for the same thing. I'll have to trouble you again to find me a master shipbuilder. Feng Zhen didn't know what to say to that. Whatever sleepiness he had left was completely gone. Jiang Pingji said angrily. If there are no warships, how can they be considered navy? Feng Zhen felt that his lord was his nemesis. Was it so easy to find a master shipbuilder? Jiang Pingji took a step back. If you can't find a master shipbuilder, you can dig me a warship. Feng Zhen smiled bitterly. His brows were almost knotted. His lord was deliberately making fun of him. With his small body he couldn't even dig the oars of a warship, let alone dig a warship. He laughed bitterly. If my lord wants a warship, you just have to tie me up and throw me into the river to offer it to the river god. Maybe I can get one. Forget it. I'm afraid that the river god will complain that you stole his wife and complain to me. If I throw you into the river, you won't even be enough to feed the fish. Jiang Pingji held back her laughter and reluctantly spared Feng Zhen. Forget it, I'll let you go for now. Anyway, it's not urgent now, so we can put the matter of the warship aside for the time being. Feng Zhen smiled and bowed as if he was begging for mercy. Thank you, my lord, for showing mercy. Fermented cat ball. Brothers and sisters, now it's our turn. Host, look at us, we are your shield. Spectacles. With Baidu and Papagu in hand, even a grandmaster shipbuilder would have to kneel down and bow down to her, let alone a master shipbuilder. Not yesterday's stars. Although we can be the intermediary and help the streamer look up information, there is no way to transmit pictures in the livestream room. You can only use text descriptions, which is a pain in the ass. How about this? Host, you think of a way to get a warship and then we can modify the foundation of this warship? That should be more appropriate. Speaking of which, where can I buy a warship? Lingyang. I remember there are wooden shipyards in China. I've seen them on the news before. I wonder if there are any almighties in the know who can provide any clues? I'll immediately fork out my wallet and fly over. The master shipbuilder would be considered a master shipbuilder in the streamer's era. Even if he didn't build a warship, there would be similarities. If you have any news, you can poke me in the background. Thank you. Jiang Pingji had just finished teaching Feng Zhen a lesson and glanced at the bullet screen. Her chest warmed and she found it funny. Feng Zhen didn't know what was going on and thought that his lord was having a bad taste. Was it really that fun to bully him? Before he could ask, the messenger's voice came from outside the tent. My lord, there is a messenger outside the tent requesting an audience. Let him in. After a while there was a rustling sound. A corner of the tent was lifted and a soldier in armor entered. By order of my lord, I pay my respects to District Magistrate Liu. Oh? Who's your lord? The chief of Zhe County, Su Bei, is my lord. As he finished speaking, the soldier handed over an invitation with both hands. Feng Zhen, who was at the side, hurriedly stood up to receive the letter and pass it to Jiang Pingji. Jiang Pingji accepted it. After she held it in her hands, she realized that the invitation was rather heavy. It didn't feel like an ordinary bamboo scroll. Not only was the material used exquisite and the workmanship was exquisite, but it was also fumigated with expensive spices. It carried a lingering fragrance that assailed the nostrils. In the words of the livestream viewers, this was probably the so-called taste of petty bourgeoisie. Jiang Pingji lifted her hand and unrolled the exquisite bamboo scroll. She carefully read the contents and looked at the signature. Su Bei from Zhe County. He had invited her and Liu Shi to attend the alliance meeting tomorrow. He spoke respectfully, making it hard for one to feel bad about it. Go back and tell your lord that my father and I will arrive on time for tomorrow's alliance meeting. Jiang Pingji lowered her eyelids and placed the fragrant bamboo scroll to the side. The soldier didn't leave. Instead, he hesitated for a while and spoke of his purpose in deliberation. My lord admires District Magistrate Liu's youthful bravery and has specially set up a banquet in the camp. I wonder if District Magistrate would grant us the honor of attending? Jiang Pingji raised her eyebrows. As intelligent as she was, how could she not see Su Bei's motive for secretly soliciting votes? Don't be fooled by the fact that the father and son were just bystanders. They didn't have many soldiers, but they carried a lot of weight. As long as they were roped in, Su Bei's bargaining chip would be guaranteed. She smiled faintly and said, Brother Su has specially set up a banquet to entertain us. How can I not attend? It is my honor. Go back and inform your lord. I will take a bath and change my clothes before attending the banquet. Otherwise it will be impolite if I go there rashly. After the soldier heard this, his face lit up with joy. He bowed and left. When Feng Zhen heard that there was a banquet, his eyes sparkled. It was as if he had imagined something. His Adam's apple moved quickly. Jiang Pingji poured a bucket of cold water on him. Don't even think about it. It's not for you. Feng Zhen's expression froze. There was an indescribable sense of distortion. The audience who had been watching the entire process couldn't help but burst into laughter. They even added psychological games to Feng Zhen. Feng Zisher, who is pure and upright. My lord, if you continue to bully my family like this, my family won't be satisfied. Li Hanmei, who is ugly if there is no salt. Sob, sob, sob. My lord, you are so bad. You bully my family. I will pound your little chest, sob, sob, sob. The atmosphere in the streaming room suddenly changed. Demons and ghosts danced wildly. Jiang Pingji almost thought she was having a nightmare. Feng Zhen asked, Then who will you be bringing, my lord? Jing Rong, Jiang Pingji replied. He has been busy with the affairs of the camp these past 2 days. He is exhausted. It's a free banquet. It would be a waste not to eat it. Feng Zhen knew that he had no chance. However, my lord, don't forget to bring me a bottle of wine when you return. He hadn't had a drop of wine in the past few days. The liquor bug in his stomach was about to overturn the heavens. Feng Zhen was craving it. Jiang Pingji agreed, feeling annoyed and amused at the same time. Chapter 700. Temporarily shutting down the streaming room, Jiang Pingji washed up and changed into her usual home attire. Jing Rong, help me get a painting and put it on the table behind the screen in the commander's tent. Bring it with you to the banquet. Yang Si did as he was told. No matter how Yang Si looked at it, his lord was clearly a handsome young man. This young face was full of vitality unique to her age. At the same time, she had a steadiness that her peers did not have. As long as a normal person was not blind, who would find out that she was actually a girl? However, the truth was that she was a genuine woman. Hearing that she would bring him to the banquet and decline Feng Zhen, Yang Si felt that his lord's decision was correct. Feng Zhen was a reckless fellow. When he saw wine and beauties, he couldn't move. It was easy for him to delay important matters. How could such a guy share the lord's worries at the banquet? If it was a man, it would be fine if he got drunk. Maybe he would have good luck with women and wake up the next day with a soft and fragrant beauty by his side. It would be a waste not to take advantage of a free gift. Unfortunately, his lord was a woman. She could not drink too much on such an occasion. The people around her had to be more cautious. Yang Si felt that there was a long way to go. At this time, Yang Si completely forgot one thing. With Jiang Pingji's alcohol tolerance, she could overturn a group of people. Although this painting has no signature, looking at the painting technique and style. Was this painted by Zixiao? When Yang Si took the painting, it was already half unrolled. With a casual glance, he could tell who the painter of this painting was. Yes, before the army set off, we asked him for a painting to use for publicity. Jiang Pingji walked forward and glanced at the pattern in the painting. She said with a smile, Among the people I know, Zixiao's painting technique is the best. I like his painting style too. Jing Rong, if you've never been to Xiangyang district, would you be moved when you see the flourishing scene in this painting? Yang Si's expression was a little strange. He seemed to be struggling with something. However, he said carelessly, A paradise beyond the world. My heart admires it. Just based on the contents of the painting, people who didn't know would indeed yearn for it. However, speaking of Wei Si's painting technique, he suddenly thought of something. He remembered that Wei Si had once painted a portrait of a woman who was exceptionally precious. Now that he recalled the face of the woman in the painting, he was extremely terrified when he thought about it. In the beginning, Yang Si did not know Jiang Pingji's gender. When he saw the painting, he thought that Wei Si had some hidden intentions. Now that he knew the truth, the woman in the painting was obviously his lord. So it wasn't that the lord wanted to do the unspoken rules with Wei Si, but that the gentleman pervert, Wei Si, had other intentions towards the lord? Jiang Pingji noticed that there was something wrong with Yang Si's expression. However, she did not delve too deeply into it. Instead, she carefully put the painting away. This is a magical treasure for us to expand our business. I plan to treat it as the god of wealth. Who knows, we might be able to make a lot of money. She opened the live broadcast room and the 150,000 slots were filled in an instant. By the time they arrived at the banquet, the sky had already darkened. Countless torches were lit up in the allied tents. like a red waterfall in the dark night. Jiang Pingji was dressed in casual clothes with a thick rabbit fur cloak over her head. She looked more childish and less valiant, making her look more scholarly and weak. At first glance she did not look like someone who lived in the army camp. Instead she looked more like a noble young master from a wealthy family who had gone out to play. There were bodyguards accompanying them all around. Xianxia rode a horse and followed them unhurriedly. Su Bei's campsite was built in the center of the Allied army's campsite. Military tents were scattered all over the place. The commander's tent was in the middle, like a myriad of stars surrounding the moon. Jiang Pingji scanned the area and realized that Su Bei was indeed rich and imposing. He was indeed a descendant of the Su family. Every soldier wore a full set of armor. The weapons in their hands were of the same type and were of excellent quality. A complete set would not be a small sum. Thinking about how many soldiers and generals Su Bei had under him, if he were to equip every single one of them with a set, how rich would his family have to be to equip them all? Jiang Pingji was secretly speechless. She lamented that a nouveau riche was indeed a nouveau riche. Rich and willful. Inside the tent, a luxuriously dressed young man was sitting high up on the seat of honor. He was frowning as he conversed with his trusted aide. Hearing the commotion outside, everyone kept quiet. Their gazes shifted outside the tent, waiting for Jiang Pingji to appear. Not long after, the tent flap was lifted from the middle. Su Bei also stood up from his seat of honor and went forward to welcome the distinguished guest. A handsome young man wearing a rabbit-skin cloak walked into the tent. His handsome face was like a gust of cold wind, blowing away the heat in the tent. Su Bei's subordinates looked at Jiang Pingji's attire and doubts arose in their hearts. This person was dressed in casual attire. He did not look like he was attending a formal banquet, but more like he was visiting a friend's house as a guest. Although it was not impolite, the scene did not seem right. This is the son of the governor of Liuzhou? He is indeed a talented man, young and promising. Su Bei's appearance was slightly handsome. Coupled with his scholarly aura, he added a few notches of charm. The audience in the live streaming room roared in excitement. This was a carnival for those who were obsessed with looks. Su Bei led Jiang Pingji into the tent, his lips warm. When I saw you enter just now, I felt a sense of familiarity as if we've known each other for a long time. If I remember correctly, you and I are close in age and belong to the same generation. If District Magistrate Liu doesn't mind my mediocre aptitude, why don't we address each other as brothers? Jiang Pingji smiled and said, to be able to address County Chief Su as brothers is obviously my honor. How can I refuse? Su Bei was also someone who took advantage of the situation. He regarded himself as the elder brother and unknowingly brought the two of them closer together. Xi's seat was arranged to be behind Jiang Pingji. At the banquet, everyone secretly examined Jiang Pingji from the corner of their eyes. Even though Jiang Pingji was young, no one present dared to look down on her. Even the self-proclaimed noble Su Bei had to take her seriously. Putting aside her relationship with Liu Shi, Jiang Pingji could occupy the entire Wanzhou without relying on her family or her father. Moreover, she was still so young. She was far superior to everyone present. If she added Liu Shi's influence, who in the Alliance army would dare to provoke her? She might not treat her like an ancestor, but they would not become enemies. If it weren't for the fact that Liu Shi and Jiang Pingji had brought too few troops, even if the Su brothers had the intention to take the position of alliance leader, they would be powerless. The most important guests had already taken their seats. Su Bei ordered people to serve food and wine. He turned his head and asked Jiang Pingji, "Worthy younger brother, do you like singing and dancing?" She was about to reject him when the bullet screens in the streaming room changed. I like it. I like it very much. Let go of those singers and dancers, let me do it." Jiang Pingji swallowed the words that were on the tip of her tongue. With a normal expression she said, "It's all right." When this answer fell into Su Bei's ears, it became reserved. After it was, "I like it very much." He revealed a meaningful smile and raised his eyebrows slightly. He said, "I understand. Which hero doesn't love beautiful women?" Xianxia, who was in the background, looked down at the ground. Chapter 701. His lord was a woman. Why would she like a group of beautiful women singing and dancing? The table in front of her was filled with delicious food and wine. There were also some delicious dried fruits that were hard to find in the north. Jiang Pingji was gnawing on the dried fruits like a squirrel. Her sharp ears heard the footsteps of more than 20 women outside the tent. The tent curtain opened. Dancers in red, accompanied by the fragrance of orchids, filed in, brightening the entire tent. Spices were added to the lamp oil. When it was burned, the bronze lamp would emit a strange fragrance. In this fragrant atmosphere, the graceful figure of the dancer in red, who was dressed in thin clothes, stepped on the elegant and mellow music of the Chinese traditional music instruments and danced with the accompaniment of her companions. The audience in the live stream was even more excited, as if they were a gathering of hungry wolves. The contents of the bullet screen had changed into a different style, and the gifts were pouring in like water, full of enthusiasm. Hanwu the great emperor. Didn't they say that the ancients were ugly? This is a slap in the face. I thought that the modern aesthetic standards were very high. Now that I'm watching the streaming room, I know that classical beauties are classical beauties. Internet celebrities can't compare to them. They are very recognizable. Chinajiao, you shameless people who are obsessed with looks. Shouldn't the focus be on the music and classical dance? Jiang Pingji was the son of an aristocratic family, but the audience in the streaming room knew that she didn't like luxury. She preferred pragmatism. This also led to the streaming room being serialized for many years. The audience had only seen a few banquets, but the quality of each one was extremely high. According to the audience, many people regarded the recorded videos of those banquets as the standard. They restored the ensemble music 100%. There was even a nouveau riche who paid for an ancient music festival. It had been held 4 times so far. Driven by the popularity of the streaming room, there was a retro trend in China in recent years. Young people also began to pay attention to ancient culture. Jiang Pingji knew the importance of civilization to the inheritance of a race. As long as the influence was positive, she would be happy for them. Some people had high awareness, but more people were ordinary people who were obsessed with looks. Looking at beautiful people was the top priority. They could see that these dancers were carefully trained. They should be private song and dance troupes in the backyard of high officials and nobles. Every dancer's appearance was of a very high standard. Each of them had elegant facial features, slender figures, creamy skin, and waists like spring willows. Even if she wasn't an outstanding beauty, she was still a rare beauty. All the beauties in red were dancing in the tent. Their watery eyes were dazzling and captivating, making one's heart itch. Jiang Pingji held a wine bottle in one hand and supported the table with the other. She rested her chin on her hand. She squinted her eyes and looked at the dancers as if she was fascinated. If one were to look closely, it would not be difficult to notice that her gaze was already fixed on the leading dancer. Her gaze was burning like fire, and under her calm appearance, there was a blazing heat, as if she wanted to burn through the dancer's dancing clothes and use her eyes to inspect her naked body. Su Bei noticed Jiang Pingji's expression and snickered in his heart. Youths were youths after all. How could they resist the seduction of beauty? He had thought that the other party was a young man who cultivated in seclusion and had excellent self-control. Now that he saw it, it was obvious that he was a hypocrite. Yang Si, who was sitting in the row behind Jiang Pingji, watched her back view and tilted her head. He secretly broke into a cold sweat. My lord, no matter how much you like young ladies, you don't have the tools to commit the crime. Do you still remember your true gender? These dances are very unique. Jiang Pingji snapped out of her trance and smiled at Su Bei. The dance is beautiful, but the dancers are even more beautiful. Indeed, she was passionate. They are just dancers kept at home. If you like them, you can pick any one of them and take it as a gift from me. Between the aristocratic families, not to mention giving away singers and dancers to be kept in the backyard, even exchanging concubines was a matter of elegance. Jiang Pingji's expression changed slightly. She was a little tempted, but she still restrained herself. How can I accept this? Looking at their appearances, it seems that they have spent a lot of effort to train them. They are so expensive, I can't accept them. Su Bei said to the leading dancer, you don't know how to read the situation. Go and pour some wine for District Magistrate Liu. The dancer bowed gracefully and stretched out her delicate and boneless hands to pour a cup of wine for Jiang Pingji. The distance between them was not far. Jiang Pingji could smell the fragrance on her body and casually asked a question. What kind of fragrance did you use? Smells so good. The dancer blushed and said shyly, I have never used fragrance. This is a natural body fragrance. Xianxi's expression became even more rigid. He was wrong. He should not have followed her. It was more suitable for the prodigal son Fengzhen to come to such an occasion. He was best at dealing with these women. A natural body fragrance? Jiang Pingji moved closer and sniffed. What entered her eyes was the dancer's slender, fair neck and delicate collarbone. Her expression was slightly intoxicated. Even her usually clear voice was slightly hoarse, making one's ears go soft. She is indeed a beauty. Even her fragrance is different from others. District Magistrate Lu is too kind. Do you know any other dances? Jiang Pingji asked her. The dancer whispered, yes. Su Bei, the brothel keeper who pulled the strings, clapped his hands. The music that had just ended started again and the leading dancer returned to the group. Jiang Pingji said, this dance and music is very novel. Feels very different from the northern dances. Su Bei smiled and said, the northern dances are rough and bold, while the southern dances are gentle and meticulous. The style of the two is naturally different. Brother Su is quite knowledgeable about this. I often hear how talented you are. Rumor has it that you are the reincarnation of the Wuxia star. Unlike me, I have never liked to study since I was young. I don't know anything about the four arts. Even my father often reprimands me, saying that I am a blockhead. Out of my 7 orifices I know nothing at all. I thought that if I had your level of attainment my father wouldn't have to sigh and reprimand me so often. Jiang Pingji had a dejected look like a frustrated youth. How could Su Bei believe that? However, he was also a shrewd person. Naturally, he would not expose Jiang Pingji's humble words. Under Jiang Pingji's intentional guidance, the topic of their conversation slowly shifted to the field of art. Su Bei did not disappoint Jiang Pingji's praise. He looked young, but his attainment in the four arts was not shallow. The audience sighed with emotion. If Su Bei had been born in their era, he would have been an all-round artist. Once he was reported, he would have swept the entire country. He was good-looking and proficient in the four arts of a gentleman. With such a persona, Tom Su, he would definitely be chased after by countless fangirls. It would be impossible for him not to become popular. It was a pity that Su Bei was born in the wrong era. He was born in a clan like the Su family. Those skills could only become playthings in his spare time. As they were happily chatting, Su Bei's gaze fell on the painting scroll in Xi's hand. He casually asked a question. Was that painted by you, my worthy brother? Jiang Pingji revealed a well-proportioned expression of embarrassment. My father often reprimands me, saying that I am not skilled enough. Even a 3-year-old child's graffiti is better than my drawing. I am unconvinced, so I searched for the painting of Master Yuanjing's disciple. I plan to take it home and study it. Perhaps I can learn something from it so that my father won't reprimand me twice. I have embarrassed myself in front of Brother Su. Jingrong, why did you bring this painting out? Chapter 702. They thought Chui's acting skills had already reached the peak. Now that they saw it, it was clear that the streamer's acting skills were even more exquisite. The Oscars owed her dozens of awards. Xianxia secretly curled his lips, but on the surface he apologized respectfully. When Su Bei heard that the painting was drawn by Master Yuanjing's disciple, his curiosity was piqued. He spoke up for Xianxia and tactfully asked if he could take a look at the contents of the painting. Naturally, Jiang Pingji would not refuse. This was the effect she wanted. Everyone in the tent knew of Master Yuanjing's reputation. They also knew that he had taken in 4 disciples. Someone said, I heard that Master Yuanjing is proficient in the art of painting. I wonder how much of the essence the master's disciple can learn. I wonder if we have the good fortune to take a look at the master's disciple's painting? Everyone in the tent agreed. They had no ill intentions, they were just curious. Master Yuanjing's reputation was too high. His 4 disciples were still unknown, which made people suspicious. Now that they could capture the painting of one of his disciples, they had to take a look and see if his disciple was worthy of his reputation. Su Bei wanted to admire the painting alone, but hearing his subordinates' voices, he could not help but ask Jiang Pingji with his eyes. After all, it was someone else's painting. He had to respect the owner's opinion. Jiang Pingji nodded in agreement. Su Bei then asked the dancers to stop dancing and unfurled the painting so that everyone in the tent could see it. Which disciple of the master painted this painting? Jiang Pingji said, the Wei family of Langjia. His name is Ci and his courtesy name is Zixiao. Because of his frail body, he rarely appears in front of people. Nowadays, because of the lack of materials and painting skills, many people pursued freehand brushwork and did not rigidly adhere to superficial similarities. Wei Ci's painting was different. It was between realistic and freehand brushwork. The brush strokes were gentle and delicate, giving it a three-dimensional feeling. The content depicted in the painting was the panoramic view of Xianxia district. Due to the length of the painting, not much was revealed, but it already included many lively scenes. There were wine shops, restaurants, tea houses, all kinds of stalls and vendors. There were also pedestrians on the streets. Some were alone and walked hurriedly. Some were in pairs, which made others envious. Some were in families. The husband and wife were in harmony and the children were lively. There were hundreds of characters and each character had a different expression. It made people marvel at the painter's meticulous observation and exquisite painting skills. Apart from the people and the streets, the most eye-catching things were the orderly buildings, the waterside pavilions, the flying eaves and arches. This painting was the epitome of prosperity in their hearts. Su Pei said, the painter's talent is outstanding and his chest is filled with thousands of ravines, full of compassion for the people of the world. This older brother is ashamed. Jiang Pingji was dumbfounded. The livestream viewers had the same reaction. Little Ruibao's mother. I suddenly remember the one who took the college entrance exam this year. There was a strange light in his eyes. Apple-scented tea. 10 years of hard work and I lost to a grass carp. Tong Tong's girl. If Su Pei took the exam, he would get full marks in his reading comprehension. He's a top scholar. Shushanya Li, #propping chin, isn't that so? Perhaps Sishan Beauty only wanted to paint a landscape painting. Su Bei had praised her, so the people below couldn't help but praise her as well. Moreover, this painting was indeed a rare work of art. It's really like the utopia that I imagined. I think when the previous dynasty was at its peak, when thousands of countries came to pay their respects, it was also a scene like this. An old general stroked his grizzled beard and heaved a long sigh. The others regained their composure and agreed one after another. The livestream viewers were practically going crazy with laughter. The content of the painting was clearly the scenery of Xiangyang district. Jiang Pingji deliberately waited for them to praise her before bashfully adding another stab. Everyone is praising me too much. The scenery in the painting is the land under the rule of the younger generation. The scenery of Xiangyang district. It's not, Jiang Pingji spoke vaguely. The entire commander's tent felt as if a cold Siberian wind had passed through it, leaving only a dozen or so ice sculptures. Su Bei's face flushed red. He was secretly embarrassed and angry. He glared fiercely at the old general who first praised her. Don't speak if you don't know how to speak properly. Now you're embarrassed. Fortunately, Jiang Pingji did not harp on this matter. Instead, she exchanged her experiences in governing the people with Su Bei. This was Su Bei's area of expertise. At the same time, it alleviated his awkwardness. Due to his chaotic state of mind and the previous awkwardness, Jiang Pingji held the initiative in this conversation. Under her guidance, Su Bei naturally shifted his attention from the art and techniques of the painting to the people and the buildings within. Speaking of the buildings, he realized that the streets, houses and courtyard walls in the painting were somewhat strange. Jiang Pingji casually mentioned this and took the opportunity to introduce the green brick. The livestream viewers gave her countless thumbs up for her sales promotion. The streamer's tricks were not only complicated but also frighteningly profound. If they met a salesperson like the streamer, not only would they not buy anything, they would probably even hand over their crotch. Throughout the conversation, it seemed as if Su Bei was the one asking questions and Jiang Pingji was the one answering passively. In reality, the rhythm was still in her hands. I wonder how much this green brick costs to build? After laying the groundwork, Su Bei finally asked this question. Zhou County was located in the south. It was warm and rainy throughout the year. Nowadays, most of the buildings were made of wood and stone. When it rained too much, it would easily become damp and mold would form. The ground would also be muddy and slippery. Su Bei was also a shrewd person. Naturally, he was unwilling to suffer a loss. He wanted something good and wanted to pay the least price. He wanted to test Jiang Pingji and find out her background. It's not expensive to build. With suitable quality soil, it can be baked into green bricks. Jiang Pingji spoke casually as if she did not know Su Bei's motive. She was like the foolish son of a landlord. Su Bei's brows furrowed deeply. He asked, using soil to bake it? Is it like baking clay porcelain? The principle is the same, but the temperature of the fire is different. The construction of the brick kiln is also very particular. Su Bei's heart itched. He probed, "Brother, do you sell this item here?" Jiang Pingji laughed and said straightforwardly, "Even if I am willing to sell it, Brother Su won't be able to afford it." Su Bei was puzzled. "But just now you mentioned that fake green bricks are cheap. Why are you saying that you can't afford it now?" Jiang Pingji smiled as she explained to him, "Green bricks aren't worth much, but how far is the distance between Xiangyang district and Brother Su's county? Green bricks are very cheap, but their weight is heavy. If a large quantity of green bricks were to be transported from Xiangyang district to county, who knows how much money and manpower would be expended? If that's the case, then this green brick isn't made of mud. It's more like it's made of silver. I admire Brother Su's talent. How would I dare to deceive you?" Su Bei was startled. He had forgotten to consider the cost of transportation. His expression was one of shame. Jiang Pingji was still nagging. "If we want to bake green bricks, it's best to build a brick kiln in an area with suitable soil." Su Bei's heart was moved. He had already set his heart on the green bricks. He was an ambitious person. Naturally, he was unwilling to be inferior to others. Chapter 703. If he could make Xia Prefecture look like the scene in the painting with clean streets, clean clothes for the people, healthy complexions and a flourishing state, then his cousin Su Fei would no longer be able to contend against him. Even if his grandfather favored his cousin more, the Su family would still be in the bag for Su Bei. After all, as the head of the family, his grandfather could not go against the opinions of the elders. However, how could he obtain the method to produce the flashing bricks? Su Bei was calculating in his mind. The banquet was nearing its end. Jiang Pingji had also gotten to know the people in Su Bei's tent. Just as he was feeling tipsy, Su Bei suddenly remembered the purpose of inviting Jiang Pingji to this banquet. He probed. "Is my worthy younger brother interested in the position of the alliance leader? If you are, I will definitely support you." Jiang Pingji shook her head. Her eyes were no longer clear and she was hazy from drunkenness. "To tell you the truth, I have sent troops to suppress the rebels several times. My purse is already empty and I cannot spend it. My subordinates and troops are exhausted and have almost lost their vitality. In order to give the people time to recuperate, and in order not to bear the bad reputation of being a warmonger, I plan to rest for a year or two first. Now, in the alliance meeting, to put it bluntly, I'm just here to join in the fun to avoid being criticized." Su Bei glanced at Jiang Pingji and saw that her cheeks were flushed red. She was so drunk that her eyes were glazed over. As she spoke, the strategist behind her paled. He wanted to stop her but did not dare to. Was she drunk? Su Bei smiled. If she was not completely drunk, why would she reveal such important information? Yang Si, who was cooperating with Jiang Pingji's act, secretly pouted. He stood up and bowed, assisting her. "My lord is drunk and delirious. If her words and actions are inappropriate, I ask for County Chief Su's understanding." Su Bei graciously agreed. Yang Si then wanted to help his lord back. Unexpectedly, Su Bei stopped him. Yang Si's expression immediately darkened. It was a rare opportunity. How could Su Bei let her go? Su Bei was good at getting information out of people, but how could Jiang Pingji, who had better acting skills, fall for it? She only said what she was willing to say. She would not discuss anything else. Even so, the combination of truth and falsehood made Su Bei's heart blossom with joy. Under his persuasion, Jiang Pingji agreed to sell him the method of making the flashing bricks. However, to prevent the relationship between the two forces from becoming stiff, he knew when to stop. He did not take advantage of the fact that Jiang Pingji was drunk to lower the price. In the end, he even gave Jiang Pingji the leading dancer. He planned to use the beauty to appease his younger brother, so that he would not regret his decision after he woke up. It's deep in the night now and the wind and snow outside are too strong. Why don't you stay in the camp and leave tomorrow after you've sobered up? What else could Xianxia say? He could only agree sullenly. The delicate and frail dancer in red and Xianxia supported Jiang Pingji on her left and right, sending her to another tent. The accommodation that Su Bei had arranged for Xianxia was nearby. The two tents were not far apart. The red-clothed dancer lowered her head slightly, revealing her slender, white neck. Her eyebrows were lowered. "Sir, please allow me to serve Lang Jun." Under the light of the lamp, the face of the beauty in red was even more charming. Even a single dog like Xianxia was stunned for a moment. If the Lord's gender was normal, Xianxia would have tactfully left. But he stood rooted to the ground, unmoving. The red-clothed dancer timidly stared at the tips of their feet. The two of them were in a subtle confrontation. At that moment Xianxia looked at Jiang Pingji from the corner of his eye. His lord was lying limply on the bed. Her eyes were tightly shut. She waved a finger by her side, indicating for him to get lost. Xianxia was speechless. He should have let the prodigal son, Feng Zhen, come on such an occasion. He was not going to fool around anymore. Xianxia resisted the urge to ridicule her. He coughed twice and said to the dancer, "Serve the Lord well." He was puzzled. Could it be that his lord wanted to use this opportunity to reveal her identity? Or was it that his lord, as a woman, did not like men and preferred feminine styles? It was terrifying to think about it. He got lost nimbly. The red-clothed dancer sent him out of the tent, then carried the lamp back to the inner room behind the screen. "Lang Jun." The red-clothed dancer called out softly. Jiang Pingji did not move. The audience in the streaming room cheered. Was there going to be an erotic battle between the two of them? Shinbulai Wazi, I can't take it anymore. Is the streamer going to give us a bonus? Goddess Zhou Xian. No way, a lesbian? That's disgusting. I'd rather watch a gay man. Hacker Mosquito Xiang. To the one above, you're even more disgusting. To put it bluntly, a lesbian can't be seen if you dry it. A gay man needs to wipe his shit. Who's more disgusting than the other? Emotions are fair. It has nothing to do with gender. This is the streamer's streaming room. We don't welcome uncultured trash like you. Lao Siji Lianming. To the one above, please calm down. Don't start a fight. The streamer has always valued her privacy. When did she not dress neatly before she started streaming? Do you think she'll stream so that you can watch her fight with a transvestite? You're thinking too much. Based on my many years of following the streaming room, the streamer must be preparing for some big move. Or, there's something wrong with this red-clothed dancer. Old viewers were old viewers after all. As rational fans of the streaming room, they naturally would not be led astray so easily. Lang Jun. As she spoke, the red-clothed dancer took a step closer. She raised her hand and pushed Jiang Pingji. "You're really drunk." Her tone suddenly turned cold. Her originally coquettish, smoky makeup took on a sinister look. At this moment the audience expressed their shock with exclamation marks. Damn it. There's something wrong with the dancer. Gui Kai Guo Fengxiu. Damn it. This vicious beauty has drawn her sword. Streamer, be careful. Don't pretend to be asleep. The snow-white dagger was unsheathed. With lightning speed it stabbed toward Jiang Pingji's neck. The dagger slashed across. The snow-white light was like a waterfall. It was dazzling and blinding. The audience in the streaming room was so shocked that they covered their eyes, not daring to look directly at it. The red-clothed dancer could even foresee the scene of Jiang Pingji's neck spurting blood in the next second. However, the scene she expected did not happen. The speed of her attack was so fast that she only managed to stab the pillow on the bed. Her target had already quickly rolled away. Because of her strength, the dagger was deeply embedded in the wooden planks under the heavy mattress. In the instant that the red-clothed dancer was stunned, Jiang Pingji had already kicked her left chest. She did not succeed in dodging. Her soft chest was hit by a huge force. Her entire body flew backward. The bullet screen in the streaming room followed the plot twist. The entire screen was filled with 666 and shocked exclamation marks. Of course, there were also some sporadic bullet screens. Hacker Mosquito Xiangpian. Oh my god. At that moment I felt pain in my chest. Lon Sei Ci. To give a visual description, before the kick, it was protruding. After the kick it was concave. Emo Qianzue. To the person above, are you trying to make me laugh to death so that you can inherit my flower money? Juemo Miaron. What the hell is concave and protruding? The streaming room is indeed full of talents. Indifferent Chujian, huh? I want to stuff the microphone into the streamer's mouth and interview her about the feeling of that kick. Jiang Pingji looked at the red-clothed dancer with a faint smile. She took the time to send a bullet screen to the audience. Chapter 704. The dancer in red stood up awkwardly and coughed twice with great effort. She flipped the dagger in her hand and aimed it at Jiang Pingji's face. The strength of Jiang Pingji's kick would have shattered a normal person's sternum. On the other hand, this person only had a bruise on the left side of her chest. There was a trace of blood at the corner of her mouth, and her breathing was slightly ragged. Looking at her attack, she didn't seem to be weakened at all. Instead, she was getting more and more courageous. Jiang Pingji was amused to see her like this. Her entire body was full of flaws. How could such a weak person want to assassinate her? Who gave her the courage? Jiang Pingji's eyes turned cold. She slashed the person's wrist with lightning speed and snatched her dagger. The dancer in red did not want to show weakness. Her other hand formed a claw and reached for Jiang Pingji's throat. Jiang Pingji frowned and dodged, but her clothes were too late. Her wide sleeves were torn into shreds. At that moment, the audience in the streaming room realized that the dancer in red's fingernails had strangely elongated. They were 3 inches long, silvery white, and extremely sharp. It was no wonder that Jiang Pingji's sleeves had been torn apart by her. If she had grabbed her neck or scratched her face, the audience trembled. They were afraid for Jiang Pingji. Piao Yang. My God, isn't this the ancient world? Why are there elements of Wuxia in fantasy? Huang Shao in a few words. Did she practice the 9-yin white bone claw? Will she break the top of her skull with one claw? Streamer, be careful. The audience was nervous and worried. As the person involved, Jiang Pingji was calm. She looked at the fingernails and mocked them in her heart. These fingernails were indeed quite strange. The dancer in red was not willing to give up. She attacked again after one attack failed. Her red dancing dress fluttered with her movements. It made people sigh with emotion. Even though they knew that her moves were fatal, they were still mesmerized. Was this a martial art or a dance? Jiang Pingji expressed that it was neither a dance nor a martial art. It was just trash. The dancer in red attacked faster and faster, but Jiang Pingji could always easily dodge them. The longer they fought, the more frustrated and anxious she became. Gradually, she lost her patience. Her originally beautiful face flashed with malevolence. Teeth, go to hell. Jiang Pingji laughed and replied, You're not qualified. The inner room was a mess. The commotion had already spread outside, but no one paid it any mind. They thought that the people inside were engaged in a fierce battle. Yang Si, who had just taken off his clothes and was about to sleep, was also alarmed. He put on his clothes and came out. When he heard the discussion of outsiders, his heart skipped a beat. Others might not know, but how could he not? His lord was clearly a woman, so how could she have sex with that red-clothed dancer? Not to mention causing such a huge commotion. Not good. A terrible guess emerged in Yang Si's mind. He quickly took out his sword and ran to the tent. Just as he was about to enter, his lord's scolding voice came from inside. Get out, don't get in the way. Yang Si stopped in his tracks and his outstretched hand stopped in midair. The atmosphere was a little awkward. Almost at the same time, screams of horror came from the tent where the dancers lived, alarming the soldiers. What happened? Why are you making so much noise? Are you itching for a beating? The female manager who was in charge of the dancers and singers heard the news and rushed over. She found that everyone was pale. She was suspicious and squeezed through the crowd. Suddenly, a chill rushed from the soles of her feet to her brain. There was a charcoal fire burning in the tent, but she felt as if she had fallen into an ice cellar. It turned out that there was a beautiful woman with a graceful figure lying in the tent. Her clothes had been stripped clean and her hair was messy. She was naked from head to toe and her face was badly mutilated. It was obvious that someone had used a knife to cut off the skin on her face. Is this Chun-er? At that moment, a trembling voice came from the crowd. Chun-er has a red mole on her abdomen. They looked at the female corpse's abdomen. Indeed, there was a dark red mole in the same place. Oh no. The manager came back to her senses and was so scared that her legs turned to jelly. Chun-Er was the most talented and beautiful dancer among all the dancers. She had always been the best choice for the lead dancer and was also the pillar of the stage. If the person in front of them was Chun-Er, then who was the one who shone brightly at the banquet tonight? The crowd also thought of this detail and were so scared that they collapsed to the ground. Could it be that the person who danced with them tonight was not a living person but Chun-Er's soul? Idiot, someone has taken over Chun-Er's identity. The manager scolded and scrambled towards the main tent, hoping that she could make it in time. My lord, your servant has something important to report to you. Something big has happened. Even though this was an important military camp, the manager could not care less. If she was late, she would die a terrible death. Who's making a ruckus outside? Inside the tent, Su Bei was in a discussion with a few of his trusted subordinates. After much difficulty, they finally had a clue. The ruckus outside was incessant. Reporting to my lord, the person outside is the manager who is in charge of the dancers. Su Bei's face darkened. The expressions of his subordinates were even more unsightly. These trusted subordinates did not approve of Su Bei bringing the dancers with him. However, because the dancers were used to bribe people, they turned a blind eye to it. But now such a thing had happened. A lowly manager of the dancers actually dared to make a ruckus in the military camp. It was as if she had nothing better to do and was tired of living. Su Bei was also afraid of being lectured by his trusted subordinates. He could only summon up his courage and ask, "Bring her in. What's wrong with making such a ruckus?" The manager was escorted in by the soldiers. As soon as she entered the tent, the manager knelt down with a thud. Her pale lips trembled uncontrollably. My lord, Chun-Er who led the dance had her face skinned long ago. She's dead. The Chun-Er who danced previously was a fake. Upon hearing this, Su Bei's first reaction was that Lu Shi was so ruthless and cruel. Not only did he kill people, he even skinned their faces. Thinking about it, he felt as if he had fallen into an ice house. The other trusted subordinates were also scared out of their wits. Lu Shi was in danger. My lord, quickly go and save him. The strategist's heart was strong. He steadied his mind and reacted accordingly. Su Bei could not care about anything else. He immediately brought his sword and went to Jiang Pingji's tent. In the short span of a few breaths, the two of them had exchanged more than 100 blows. Jiang Pingji took her time to probe the other party and confirmed her suspicions. The information had been successfully gathered. There was no need to keep this person alive. She rolled away to avoid the wind from the other party's palm strike. With one hand she picked up the dagger that had fallen to the ground. The situation was suddenly reversed. I admit that your martial arts skills are not bad. However, external things are still external. If you don't train diligently and have not a shred of actual combat experience, even if you have exceptional martial arts skills, you are still trash. You want to assassinate me? Train for another 100 years. Jiang Pingji's left hand formed a knife and stabbed straight at the other party's throat. Her speed was so fast that even her afterimage could not be seen. The dancer dressed in red only felt her vision blur. The sound of bones cracking could be heard from her throat. The dagger that was supposed to stab Jiang Pingji had now pierced into her heart from behind. You have the system by your side. You won't die. You're welcome to deliver your head again next time. Before she lost consciousness, she heard Jiang Pingji murmur in her ear. Chapter 705. Jiang Pingji clicked her tongue as she watched her slumped body fall to the ground. She called out, "Come in." Yang Si heard his lord's instructions and immediately entered. In the darkness he heard his lord say, "Jing Rong, I'll give you a chance to be a martial arts expert. Don't spill the beans later." Yang Si was speechless. My lord, what did he do? He was worried that the other party would be injured, but his lord had pushed the blame onto him. This was ridiculous. However, she was the lord of the little princess. He could only resign himself to his fate as her strategist. Yang Si fumbled in the darkness and lit the bronze lamp. Only then did he see the scene in the room. When he saw the female corpse on the ground, he was so frightened that his hair stood on end. He messed up his clothes, then took off his cloak and rubbed it on the wound on the woman's body. Then he put it back on. The audience in the streaming room watched Yang Si's fake act. They were all dumbfounded. Demon's proud son, Pai Rong Rong is amazing. Not only can he come up with strategies, But he can also help my lord clean up messes. Rotten cat Bakwa. What the hell is Rong Rong? My name is Yang Jing Rong. A nickname is also very good. Yang Si hastily made up his clothes. The sound of messy footsteps could be heard from outside. There was also the sound of armor clashing. Yang Si glared at Jiang Pingji, who was pretending to be asleep. He carried his blood-stained sword out of the tent. Auto, lighting crew in position. Cameraman in position. Actors in position. Prepare the microphones. Rong Rong, begin your performance. Yang Si panted heavily. He glared fiercely at the group of people who had rushed over. He was filled with righteous indignation and wanted to gain the upper hand by making a show of strength. What a great chief of Zhou County. My lord trusted you and called you a brother. How dare you use such despicable methods? Su Bei felt extremely wronged. However, if mud fell into his pants, it would be shit even if it wasn't. He did not explain immediately. Instead, he was concerned about Jiang Pingji's situation. If Lu Shi was assassinated, his life would be over. Master, I, Su Bei, am a man of indomitable spirit. How could I do such a despicable thing? If you insist on accusing me of a crime, I will not argue with you. But the most important thing now is my brother's safety. Please let me in to see my brother. When Su Bei saw that Yang Si's face was only filled with rage and not sorrow, he heaved a sigh of relief. This at least proved that Lu Shi was still alive and had not died in his territory. Yang Si confronted them for a while, but in the end he reluctantly stepped aside and let them enter the tent. With the bright light, everything inside the tent was revealed to them. A female corpse lay by the side of the bed. The person they were worried about was sleeping soundly. Her entire body reeked of alcohol and her cheeks were flushed red. Su Bei's heart finally calmed down. Only then did he have time to pay attention to the female corpse. The generals who had rushed over after hearing the news all sucked in a breath of cold air. It turned out that the female corpse's throat had been twisted and shattered, and there was a dagger in her back, piercing through her front and back. His attacks were truly ruthless. Yang Si lowered his eyes and snorted coldly. His back was as straight as a pine tree growing on the summit of a mountain. He said, "If it weren't for the fact that my lord still has some consciousness and delayed for a while until I arrived, I'm afraid that everything would be too late." If County Governor Su did not give an explanation, he would not let this matter rest so easily. The dancer you gave to my lord was raised by your residents. How did she become an assassin who tried to kill my lord? She almost caused my lord to lose his life. Su Bei hurriedly explained in an attempt to clear his name. "Mr. Please don't be angry. This matter was caused by a scoundrel. I definitely did not hire a killer. Mr. Please come over and take a look. Look at this person's face, there's a layer of human skin on it." To tell you the truth, the manager of the dance troupe discovered that the dancer had been killed and her face had been peeled off. Only then did he realize that it was a trap. When I found out about this, I hurriedly brought people over to rescue him. Fortunately, Mr.'s martial arts are excellent and you finally killed the scoundrel and saved my brother. Yang Si's heart skipped a beat. He had personally witnessed someone rub the edge of the woman's face. Indeed, a layer of human skin had been rubbed off. Huang Xiao in a few words. "Oh my god, there's actually such a thing. Zhao Yu. Oh my god, is this a cameo by Strange Stories from a Chinese studio? I want to vomit just looking at the real human skin. Yu Xiao Yanran. The atmosphere is too heavy. Let's talk about something happy. Rong Rong is quite good at acting as an expert. If this was any other time, the audience would definitely have used the phrase Rong Rong is shamelessly acting as an expert to make fun of Yang Si. But now, faced with such a cruel scene, the idle spectators no longer had the mood to liven up the atmosphere. The layer of human skin was peeled off, revealing a face covered in blood. The crowd was disgusted and no longer had the mood to look at how she looked. This person can't be any more dead. Just throw her away and feed her to the dogs. It's bad luck to leave her here. Su Bei waved his hand and ordered his men to throw the female corpse away. The crowd looked at the limp and drooping head. When they saw that the neck had been completely crushed, they were frightened and a chill ran down their spines. Su Bei swallowed his saliva and discreetly distanced himself from Yang Si. If this expert were to suddenly attack, his life would be in danger. Yang Si saw his petty actions but did not expose him. His eyes were still gloomy and his tone was filled with the tone of an expert. I have to stand guard outside the tent for the Lord to prevent any mishaps. If there's nothing else, please return. When the Lord wakes up tomorrow, I will explain everything to her. County Chief Su, you have to give us an explanation for this matter. Of course, Mr. Please rest assured. Su Bei cupped his hands in salute and sighed softly before leading his men away. Although Xianxia was guarding inside, he was still worried and deployed a group of elite soldiers to protect the tent. When they left, Xianxia heaved a long sigh of relief. An exceptional expert who was dressed like a weakling was indeed making things difficult for him. Just as he was about to leave, he glanced at his lord who was sleeping soundly. He knew that she was pretending to be asleep. He still had a stomach full of questions to ask her, but in the end he held back. He hugged his blood-stained cloak and stayed outside for the entire night. He was mentally exhausted. Coupled with his good schedule, he quickly fell asleep. In a trance, Xianxia felt as if his body was covered by another layer of something. Initially it was a little cold, but then it became warm. Jiang Pingji's eyes flashed with coldness. Like a wisp of smoke, her figure was faintly discernible. She twisted and turned, staying in the blind spot of the patrolling guards. Without alerting anyone, she left the campsite and ran in a certain direction. When the audience in the streaming room saw that Jiang Pingji did not continue streaming, they knew that there would be follow-up. Thus, they stayed up all night waiting for her to take action. But what was she doing in the wilderness in the middle of the night? Not only that, but the surrounding scenery was becoming more and more desolate. Occasionally human bones could be seen. It was a horrifying sight. Was the streaming room finally going to give up on the battle for hegemony and change to the supernatural and mythological path? Reality proved that the audience was overthinking things. Jiang Pingji had come here in the middle of the night to search for clues to prove her conjecture. She followed the spiritual imprint left on the red dancer's body and ran to her destination, but she did not see the corpse. Chapter 706. Looking at the blood stains on the ground, Jiang Pingji smiled. Under the cold moonlight, the smile was particularly horrifying. The audience in the streaming room shuddered. The streamer's style was not right. Ijia Weiming, streamer, what are you doing now? So horrifying. I wanted to sleep, but now I can't. Luoxue, it's really horrifying. Streamer, don't tell me you're here to check on the corpse of the painted skin? Lu Chenyemal, wow, are there really demons and ghosts in this world? Jiang Pingji sent a bullet screen to stop these people from continuing to make up stories and scare themselves. Streamer V, I'm here to look for the corpse. As I expected, it has disappeared. Or rather, the person has been resurrected and left. Don't think it's strange. I can stream for all of you here. Why can't the time traveler have a powerful cheat? However, that person's rank is not high. She failed to assassinate me and even suffered a loss at my hands. Jiang Pingji could have killed the red dancer in one move, but she did not do so. Instead, she stalled for time to test the waters. Apart from this, she played an evil trick and did something else. She infused her mental strength into the other party's body and imprisoned the system that was lurking in the woman's body. If she killed the red dancer, the system would give up on the time traveler and return to its original body. This would cause trouble for Jiang Pingji. After all, it was not time to close the net. She did not want to go against the main system. Therefore, she forcefully bound the system to the body so that the system could not leave the body. The system's only choice was to spend a huge amount of popularity points to repair the female corpse and let the time traveler come back to life. She came out late at night to check if the time traveler came back to life. Sure enough, everything was going according to her plan. Jiang Pingji got up and left the mass grave. On the way back, she mercilessly mocked the system that was imprisoned in her mind. That's your brother. You're so stupid. The system flew into a rage out of humiliation and revealed its true nature. Jiang Pingji, you'll die a horrible death. A scholar could be killed but not humiliated. This woman had humiliated it time and time again. The system hated her to the core. Jiang Pingji squinted her eyes. All right, I'll wait. Let's see who will toy with who to death. According to her speculation, the two hosts of the subsystem could see each other's livestream screen when they opened a livestream. During the banquet, she had been staring intently at the red-robed dancer's comments, and the contents of those comments had greatly broadened her horizons. She thought she was dirty enough, but she had never seen the entire bullet screen filled with pornographic content. There were even people who used words to simulate a disharmonious scene on the bullet screen. It was like a scene of excessive glue, unbearable to look at. How could this be considered a proper live broadcast room? It could practically be an A, B, C/V. Jiang Pingji had observed that the dancer dressed in red was unlikely to be able to see her screen. After thinking about it carefully, she deduced the reason behind it. The two subsystems each had two channels, receiving and sending messages. Jiang Pingji restricted the subsystem, so the streaming system could only receive messages and not send them out. She could receive the live stream interface presented by another subsystem, but the other party couldn't receive the information here. In other words, if her main system also started a live broadcast, she would be able to easily capture the other party. However, she did not believe a single word that the system said. Who knew if the system itself was a live broadcast system, or some other system? Jiang Pingji returned to the campsite under the moonlight. At that moment, the sky had already begun to brighten, and there were streaks of white light. As for where the red-robed dancer had gone, reality proved that Jiang Pingji's guess was correct. She had been resurrected. Rewinding time back a few hours, the red-robed dancer's neck had been crushed by Jiang Pingji, and her heart had been pierced by a dagger. She could not be more dead than she was. She was in a daze and she felt her body being pulled into the portable space of the system by a huge force. Her soul appeared in the brightly lit living room of the villa. The lingering fear of death terrified her. She hugged her legs and curled up on the sofa of the villa, wailing loudly. After a while she sobbed and asked the system, "System, am I already dead?" The system's voice was sinister, and it carried a murderous intent that the red-robed dancer had never encountered before. Dead. She subconsciously shivered. Can I still be resurrected? I still have points of popularity. I don't want to die. 1 billion. The system spat out two words coldly. The red-robed dancer's expression froze. It was just restoring her physical body and resurrecting her, yet it required 1 billion points of popularity? Why is it so expensive? She felt a little more confident. 1 billion? How can I earn that much? The system's voice was full of anger. It's always been this price. It's fine if you don't want to resurrect. No one is forcing you. One could tell that the system was in a very bad mood just by listening to its voice, but the red-robed dancer did not know what was going on. He felt wronged. Of course, she did not know what was going on. After discovering Jiang Pingji's strength, the system wanted to get rid of its current host and run for its life. How could it have known that the woman would be so treacherous? She actually used underhanded methods to bind it to the stupid woman in front of it. From now on, unless Jiang Pingji's spirit died or she released the host, the system would be bound to this body. It would not be able to temporarily leave the host and send messages to the main system. Even if it wanted to escape, it would not be able to. What the F***ck? It was not difficult for it to imagine how the other system was treated. The red-robed dancer wanted to be stubborn for a while longer, but she did not want to be trapped in the system's space for the rest of her life. It was too lonely and she could not bear it. Therefore it was better for her to give in first. 1 billion. But I don't have that many points right now. In order to rush here from Zhongzhou as soon as possible, I spent all my popularity points to exchange for the deity's 1,000 miles talisman. You know best how many points I have in my account. The red-robed dancer still wanted to act pitiful and quibble a little. The system was rather easy to talk to. It gave the red-robed dancer two choices. Pay in installments or overdraft. Choose one. I'm reminding you to make your choice as soon as possible. Otherwise, if your corpse is completely destroyed, you won't be able to resurrect. The system was not a good person. Whether it was installments or overdraft, the red-robed dancer would have to bear a large portion of the interest. Faced with such a tyrannical condition, she refused in her heart, but she had no choice but to grit her teeth and agree. The system laughed mockingly. Who asked you to be so stupid? I originally wanted you to use the level 9 loyalty talisman, but you were too greedy and wanted to assassinate. The red-robed dancer was already feeling very aggrieved, and now she was being mocked by the system. She was so angry that her internal organs were about to move. She had snuck into the dance troupe to use the level 9 loyalty talisman on Jiang Pingji, but she had not expected Jiang Pingji to be so drunk. Chapter 707. Thinking of this, the dancer in red felt even more remorseful. Fortunately, she still had the level 9 loyalty talisman. She still had a chance to turn the tables. Once she used the level 9 loyalty talisman to control Jiang Pingji, she would definitely return the favor and make that slut's life a living hell. The dancer in red chose to split the time. One person and one system came to an agreement. She was resurrected. Her broken neck and pierced heart were now intact. She opened her eyes and found herself lying in a mass grave. Her surroundings were covered in pure white snow. Skeletons could still be seen sticking out of the ground. She was so frightened that she almost crawled away from her original spot. Her body was still cold and it was inconvenient for her to move. She could only lie low and wait for another opportunity. The sky broke and Xianxia woke up on time due to his biological clock. He rubbed his eyes and realized that he was wrapped in warm bedding. Not far away there were 2 extinguished charcoal braziers. My lord. Xianxia shook his head and recalled the events of the previous night. He called out to her, but Jiang Pingji's voice came from outside the tent. You're awake. Jiang Pingji had already changed into a clean set of clothes. She looked at Xianxia with a faint smile. Greetings, my lord. Xianxia felt his old arms and legs ache. Of course, no one would dare to curl up and sleep the entire night. Their limbs would protest. Go and wash up first. We'll settle the score with Su Bei and ask for some compensation. Although Su Bei was innocent, Jiang Pingji was obviously trying to blackmail him. It was not her style not to take advantage of him. Xianxia nodded and said with a gloomy expression, Indeed, we have to settle the score. If not for my lord's superior martial arts skills, I don't know what would have happened to you last night. Xianxia did not know much inside information, so he did not expect that Jiang Pingji had purposely blackmailed Su Bei. This was a trap she had dug. How could Jiang Pingji not know that there was something wrong with the lead dancer? Precisely because she knew that there was something wrong with that person, she took advantage of the situation and set up such a trap at the last minute. Poor Su Bei. He had even thoughtfully sent the person to her and helped her blackmail. Last night, Xianxia slept well and Jiang Pingji slept even more soundly. Only Su Bei and his subordinates did not sleep. At this time, how could they still sleep? Who was it that skinned Chun'er's face? Who put Chun'er's face on that female assassin's face and ordered her to kill Lu Shi? Who was the one who had set up such a trap for Lu Shi to die in his camp? Who was the one who had framed him? Several questions lingered in their minds. The atmosphere in the commander's tent was so gloomy that it could drip water. Finally, Su Bei spoke first, breaking the heavy atmosphere. Do you think this matter, could it be done by second bro? Everyone in the tent looked at each other. In fact, their first suspect was also Su Fei. However, a quarrel between brothers was still a scandal. As subjects, it was not suitable for them to sow discord between their lord and their family. Su Bei and Su Fei were direct descendants of the Su clan. Because the head of the family was their grandfather, regardless of whether they were the eldest grandson or the second grandson, they all had the right to inherit the Su family. In terms of seniority, naturally the eldest grandson Su Bei was more suitable. He was gentle, polite, skillful, had a good reputation and was capable. However, the head of the Su family favored Su Fei more. This was because this youngest grandson was much better looking than Su Bei. His features also resembled the head of the family when he was young. Naturally, he could win the favor of the old man. Su Fei had a sweet tongue and could often make the old man smile from ear to ear. In this aspect, Su Bei could not compare to his cousin. If Su Fei was incompetent, it would have been fine. However, Su Fei was not weak either. As the two cousins grew older, the competition between them became more intense. Occasionally they would play some tricks, but they would not go overboard. This was a silent, tacit understanding between the two brothers. Su Bei never expected that his cousin, who usually kept quiet, would take someone's life the moment he made a move. If Lu Shi did not have someone skilled in martial arts by his side to protect him, who knew if Lu Shi died that night, Lu Shi would use 2 provinces and 1 county to take revenge on him. If this scheme succeeded to appease Lu Shi's anger, the Su family would probably abandon him and throw him out to be dealt with by Lu Shi. This would be considered an explanation to Lu Shi. Thinking about this, Su Bei could not help but shudder. What a vicious scheme. Other than Su Fei, he could not think of a second suspect. Let me ask you, do you think it was the second son who did this? Su Bei raised his voice again. The people under the tent could not sit still anymore. They could only brace themselves and respond. We are unwilling to believe it, but the possibility of it being the second Lang Jun is very high. They had never considered that this was Jiang Pingji's own doing. All signs pointed to the fact that the mastermind was someone who understood Su Bei's campsite very well. Otherwise, how could he have known where the dancer was? How did he know that Su Bei had invited Lu Shi to a banquet today in an attempt to rope in the Lu family father and son? If there was no support, how could he have killed the dancer without anyone knowing and skinned her face? There must have been a mole helping him. Su Bei and Su Fei had competed for many years and were familiar with each other. It was normal for him to plant an informant. If Su Fei knew about this, he would definitely sigh with emotion. What a great scheme. Su Bei closed his eyes in agony. He and Su Fei had competed for many years, but they were still brothers. They had never thought of killing each other. Today this cousin of his had suddenly stabbed him in the back and had truly hurt Su Bei. However, he did not have the time to grieve and mourn for the lost brotherhood. The most important thing now was to stabilize Lu Shi and improve the relationship between the two factions. Even if it could not be restored to its original state, they could not become enemies. At the very least, they could not let the second son take advantage of them. Su Bei's goal was to be the chief of the alliance. If he angered the father and son of the Lu family, they would turn around and help the second son, Su Fei. He would suffer a great loss. Everyone discussed for the entire night and came up with many ways to remedy the situation. Su Bei was like a prisoner awaiting his trial, anxiously awaiting the final outcome. They did not sleep the entire night, but Jiang Pingji slept soundly. After breakfast, she brought Xianxia along to visit Su Bei. Worthy younger brother. When Su Bei saw Jiang Pingji, it was as if he had seen a close relative. That call gave one goosebumps. Brother Su. Compared to the enthusiasm from last night, Jiang Pingji's attitude today was rather cold. Su Bei did not feel awkward. He said, I heard that you were attacked by an assassin last night. Does my worthy younger brother know who did it? Jiang Pingji laughed coldly. I was attacked in Brother Su's camp. The assassin was a dancer arranged by Brother Su. I should be asking Brother Su about this matter. She was indeed angry. Su Bei sighed to himself. Last night's incident was a trap set up by a scoundrel. As an elder brother, we hit it off well at first sight. Why would I want to harm you? Su Bei spoke earnestly, but he did not reveal who the mastermind was. Instead, he called a few people over. They were all witnesses. The scoundrel was ruthless. He skinned a stranger's face and disguised her as a dancer in an attempt to assassinate my worthy younger brother. This matter is indeed my fault. I should not have arranged this for you, Sai. Jiang Pingji's expression was hesitant. Her heart wavered. Su Bei persisted and analyzed the situation in detail. If Lu Shi died here, he would be the first unlucky person. Why would he dig his own grave? Chapter 708. When Su Bei heard this, he was delighted. He knew that there was still a chance to turn the situation around. With an ashamed expression, he said, I am truly incompetent. Not only did I frighten you, but I am also worried about me. Brother Su, don't belittle yourself. If you are so incompetent, wouldn't I be useless? When Jiang Pingji said this, the tense atmosphere in the commander's tent became more cheerful and relaxed. Su Bei immediately led her to her seat. However, can Brother Su tell me who the mastermind is? When Jiang Pingji said this, a cold glint flashed across her eyes. Her tone was icy. Regardless of whether it was directed at me or if I was implicated, if it wasn't for my good luck last night, I would have been reincarnated by the King of Hell. If I don't vent my anger, others will think that Lu Shi of the Lu family is a soft persimmon that can be pinched and that I am easy to bully. Su Bei wanted to cover it up. After all, he and Su Fei were family. Internally they had conflicting interests, but externally they were united. As a descendant of the Su family, they were bound together for good or ill. Su Fei could do anything to bring him down, but Su Bei could not do so, at least not now. However, in the face of Jiang Pingji's repeated probing and questioning, Su Bei could only divulge a few words so as not to destroy their recently improved relationship. Actually, regarding the villain behind this, I have yet to confirm it. I only have a suspect. Su Bei's expression was ugly. He deliberated and said, I am ashamed to say this, but this person is my cousin. Currently there is no solid evidence, so I cannot convict him. Don't worry, brother. Give me some time and I will definitely get to the bottom of this matter and give you an explanation. If Su Fei did it, I will not be biased. Jiang Pingji listened expressionlessly. Brother Su's cousin Su Fei? Isn't that your closest relative? How could it be? Every family has its own difficulties and everyone has their own difficulties. Su Bei felt slightly embarrassed. Brothers fighting each other was not good news. It was also a manifestation of the family's restlessness and poor upbringing. Su Fei and I have been fighting for many years. It is no secret that we are not on good terms. Our family's misfortune is shameful. Brother, I have made a fool out of myself. Actually, I've known Su Fei for many years, so it's hard for me to draw a conclusion about the truth of this matter. Even though Su Bei had already convicted Su Fei in his heart, he could not say it out loud. He could only obscure the main point. Jiang Pingji nodded obediently and said expectantly, Then I will wait for your news. Seeing that she was so obedient and easy to talk to, Su Bei heaved a long sigh in his heart. He was such a gullible youth, so why was his cousin so not cute? Su Bei then set up a banquet to entertain Jiang Pingji, providing her with delicious food and drinks. Jiang Pingji was almost done eating when she suddenly remembered Yang Xi's instructions. She said, Brother Su, I heard from Jing Rong that I promised Brother Su last night that I would sell you the method to make the blue bricks. When Su Bei heard this, his nerves instantly tensed up. It was as if an ice-cold current had suddenly appeared from the soles of his feet to his brain. If he asked himself honestly, he indeed coveted the method to make the blue bricks, but today was different from yesterday. Bringing it up now was asking for abuse. He still had a huge pile of **T to clean up, and he had not completely cleared himself of suspicion. If he suddenly made such a move, what if She suspected that he had taken advantage of her when she was in a drunken stupor to trick her into selling the core technique? Wouldn't all his previous efforts go to waste? Su Bei's brain worked quickly and he secretly gave his confidant a look, intending to ask for help from outside. How could he smooth this matter over? The strategist secretly gestured a few actions to him and Su Bei understood them. This matter is indeed true. Su Bei glanced at Yang Xi and saw that he was looking at him with a smile that was not quite a smile, as if giving him a silent warning. His heart thumped and he knew that he could not fool him. He said, I'm not afraid of being laughed at, brother. Last night I saw Master Yuanjing's disciples painting, and my heart yearned for the scene in the painting. I also want to govern Zhou County and make it as lively and prosperous as this. Zhou County is located in the south where it is warm and rainy, and objects tend to rot and mold easily. If we have green bricks as building materials, I feel that the situation will improve significantly. Last night I didn't know that brother was drunk and I asked a few questions. Now that I think about it, it's still not appropriate. Brother, you don't have to take it to heart. Jiang Pingji shook her head disapprovingly, her voice resolute and decisive. A gentleman's word is as good as the whip of a fast horse. How can I take back what I've said? Regardless of whether I was drunk and unconscious last night, or if I said the wrong thing, since I've already promised Brother Su, I can't go back on my word. Moreover, Brother Su's actions are for the sake of the people of Zhou County, and not for your own selfish reasons. I've always admired Brother Su's character and talent. If I can help you a little, why would I refuse? Among the people present, apart from a few strong-willed and straightforward generals, who wasn't a highly skilled actor. For Su Bei to be able to maintain such a good reputation, his acting skills and ability to lie through his teeth were also top-notch. The audience in the streaming room and Yang Xi watched coldly as the two top-notch actors competed with each other, playing tricks on each other and silently watching the show. Su Bei didn't expect Jiang Pingji to make such a promise. He was touched and admired her, but he was even more surprised. This meant that She had completely forgiven him. Their relationship hadn't been destroyed by last night's incident. While maintaining their relationship, if he could purchase the method to produce the flashing bricks, that would be the best outcome. Su Bei smiled. Brother, your promise is as weighty as Mount Tai. I'm ashamed of my inferiority. Jiang Pingji was a thick-skinned person. When she was narcissistic, she would be narcissistic. When she should be humble, she would be humble. Of course, most of her modesty was to pave the way for her future narcissism. She and Su Bei complimented each other for a while before entering the bargaining stage. Because Su Bei was the one in the wrong, he didn't need Jiang Pingji to deliberately fight for his own benefits. He took the initiative to give in. It wasn't easy to set a price for a technique, but Su Bei was a wealthy man. His strategist wasn't short-sighted, so he set a decent price for the flashing bricks. However, Jiang Pingji was a black-hearted person. How could she be satisfied with such a small profit? She frowned as if she was hesitating. Su Bei thought she wasn't satisfied with the price, so he asked, "Brother, what do you think of the price?" "Brother Su thinks highly of me. Naturally, I won't be ungrateful. It's just that." Jiang Pingji wanted to say something, but she stopped. She only said half of it and hid half of it. She really had an obsessive-compulsive disorder. Su Bei hurriedly asked. Only then did Jiang Pingji reveal her intentions hesitantly. She wore a penitent expression that said, "I'm guilty, I'm too greedy." Chapter 709. If her acting skills were slightly worse, it would be considered a clumsy performance. But would Jiang Pingji's acting skills be bad? Thus, she successfully portrayed herself as a righteous gentleman who cherished the world and had gone astray for a moment. After realizing her mistake, she repented and reflected on herself. Even though Yang Si was used to seeing his lord's acting skills, he was about to be led into the ditch by her. She was simply a drama queen. The idle viewers in the streaming room queued up to give Jiang Pingji likes, sending countless 666 comments. Huang Shun, a man of few words. I seem to have seen a walking drama queen. With the streamer's acting skills, the judges must be blind if she doesn't win an Oscar. Midnight Epilepsy, a man of few words. Her tricks are too profound. I suddenly feel sorry for Su Bei. He met a peak drama queen and was almost fooled. Fengwu, Su Bei and the streamer. This is a showdown between two 10,000-year-old drama queens. I suddenly thought of a joke. If it's a fight for hegemony, the feudal lords will rise together. The lords of every faction will surely be drama queens. If these drama queens were to gather together and have them act together, whoever has the most profound tricks will survive until the end. Haha, I think our streamer will definitely defeat everyone in seconds. With the support of the idol buff, Jiang Pingji successfully trapped Su Bei. Su Bei was unaware of the impending danger and continued to tease Jiang Pingji with a smile. My worthy brother, you were trying to persuade me just now. Why are you remorseful now? Everyone makes mistakes. What's more, my worthy brother's actions aren't wrong. I've never heard of an item like the flashing brick. My worthy brother must have put in a lot of effort to create it. Even blood brothers have clear accounts. It's only right and proper for me to purchase it from my worthy brother. If you don't accept it, I won't comply. Jiang Pingji pondered for a while and finally opened her mouth hesitantly. Brother Su's words make sense. An item like the flashing brick that benefits the people shouldn't be owned by just one or two families. If we monopolize it, it would seem narrow-minded. Since Brother Su wants to buy the method to create the flashing brick, it must be valuable. I have an idea, but I'm not sure if it's feasible. Why don't we lower the price and sell it to a few more families? Not only can we promote it, but we can also earn some money to subsidize our family. She said the first few words shyly as if she was guilty of her own thoughts, but the last sentence was mischievous. Su Bei smiled at first, but soon after he seriously considered her words. Because of Jiang Pingji's previous performance, he did not think that she was acting. Instead, he felt that she was noble and had a benevolent heart. If it were someone else, they would definitely try their best to squeeze out all the benefits they could, but Lu Shi did the exact opposite. Who would see a profiteer give away the money he had earned? Su Bei thought to himself that if they were in a time of peace and prosperity, it would be a blessing for the people to have such officials. He had always wanted to find a chance to leave and improve his relationship with Lu. He had always been looking for an opportunity to leave a good impression on her and get closer to her. Now that there was a ready-made opportunity in front of him, he would not miss it. He said, "Brother, if you don't mind me being a busybody, why don't you lend me that painting scroll first?" Brother asked. Jiang was brother. Lu I, Bei. I brother Jiang. And I, has Wang Long Jiang, I saying I. I don't have much else, but I have built up some connections. Su Bei's tone carried a tinge of pride. From what I can see, your shy personality is not suitable for this kind of work. If younger brother trusts me, I will definitely handle this matter properly for you. Jiang Pingji was startled. She only regained her composure after a while. She understood Su Bei's meaning. How can I accept this? She was so happy that she almost bit her tongue. She spoke incoherently. Brother Su, you are willing to do so much for me. All the more I cannot accept your money. How about this? I am willing to give you the technique to make the flashing bricks for free. Before she could finish her sentence, Su Bei interrupted her. Blood brothers should settle accounts clearly. Although we are not related by blood, we feel like old friends at first sight. We are like brothers. How can I take advantage of you? He had to give her money, and he even gave her quite a bit. However, whether the money was to be used to purchase the technique or to compensate for the mental damage she had suffered last night, it was up to the benevolent to see. After breakfast, Jiang Pingji brought along Yang Si, her personal guards, and a contract with Su Bei's official and private seal. She wrapped her bag and slowly left. Yang Si was speechless. Watching the whole process, he felt that his value as a strategist was reduced to a backdrop. He was not even comparable to a salted fish. I'm so tired. I feel like I'm tongue-tied when I speak in such a genteel manner. Jiang Pingji tightened her rabbit fur cloak to block out the cold wind. She then rubbed her stiff cheeks. Acting was really tiring. Yang Si frowned. My lord, will Su Bei and the rest really fall for it? Jiang Pingji thought about it. It's hard to say in the future, but at least they've fallen for it now. However, there is no perfect plan in this world. If I'm discovered, then so be it. What's there to be afraid of? Even if they discover something, my crime is merely taking advantage of the situation. At most, I'll add another crime of using Su Bei. Both crimes are harmless. If we carefully consider it, they won't have much to lose. However, I was almost assassinated in their camp. This is an ironclad fact. To them, it's better for me to be alive than dead. If I die, they will be finished too. Therefore, even if they were unwilling to accept it, they still had to swallow their anger. Who would dare to shed all pretense of cordiality? This is indeed the case. Yang Si recalled the scene from last night and asked, was that assassin really Su Fei's doing? If it was really Su Fei's doing, then the estrangement between the Su brothers was deeper than anyone could imagine. Jiang Pingji glanced at Yang Si and asked him in reply. Do you think this is Su Fei's doing? Yang Si shook his head. I don't think so. Su Fei has no motive. Su Fei was indeed the most suspicious, but from Yang Si's point of view, Su Fei had no motive. Why did he say so? One of the main reasons the Su brothers could become powerful figures in the alliance army was that they had a total of 100,000 troops. If their relationship broke down and they went their separate ways, each of them would only have 50,000 troops in their hands. They wouldn't be as much of a threat. The Su brothers' interests were tied together. There were conflicts of interest, but there were also areas where they helped each other. They were bound together for good or for ill. If one of them fell, the other wouldn't be able to gain any benefits. Su Fei assassinated Lu Shi and then framed Su Bei? This was obviously a stupid move that would kill 1,000 enemies while sacrificing 800 men. However, if this matter wasn't done by Su Fei, Yang Si really couldn't think of any other suspects. Unless, Yang Si shifted his gaze to his lord. Could it be that this assassination was directed and acted by the lord herself? No, impossible. Yang Si had just come up with this idea, but it was immediately extinguished by him. The loophole in this conjecture was far greater than Su Fei's. Chapter 710. Yang Si immediately rushed forward and questioned her. My lord, you already know who the mastermind is? Why did they do this? Why did they want to assassinate my lord? For what reason? Jiang Pingji laughed coldly and said, this assassination wasn't to frame Su Bei or Su Fei. This assassin is only targeting your lord. The assassin's target is me, not anyone else. He has never targeted anyone else. Su Bei and Su Fei were caught in an undeserved calamity. Who asked them to be so unlucky and coincidentally bump into me? Speaking of which, the assassin's training was too poor. He was not proficient in martial arts. With such little ability, he actually had the courage to assassinate me? What a waste of my time. Xianxia had never expected that the assassin was actually targeting his lord. Could it be the lord's enemy? Thinking of this, he panicked. This matter. Should I report it to the old master? The enemy was in the dark while they were out in the open. It was impossible to guard against them. If he informed Lu Shi, it would be safer. No need, I can handle it. If I tell my father about this, it'll just be adding another person to worry about me. Xianxia sighed and repeatedly reminded her, My lord, don't force yourself. Safety is the most important thing. I know. Xianxia knew that he could not persuade Jiang Pingji, so he could only put the matter aside for now and discuss it later. On second thought, Xianxia sympathized with the Su brothers. They were caught in an undeserved calamity. I suddenly thought of something. The Su brothers are really pitiful. Perhaps they'll break up because of this matter. When Xianxia said this, there was a hint of schadenfreude in his tone. It was as if he was watching a good show. Don't say that he was heartless. Everyone served their own master, so no matter what he did, he would not go overboard. Wasn't being a strategist a job that harmed others to benefit oneself? The Su brothers appear to be harmonious on the surface, but their battle in the dark is getting more and more intense. Even without this matter, Su Fei and Su Bei's battle will intensify and cross the line sooner or later. As for breaking up, the leader of the Su family is already old. How many years does he have left to live? As long as he's alive, the battle between Su Bei and Su Fei will be restrained. If he dies and the Su family hasn't chosen a worthy successor, these two cousins will definitely fight until the world is turned upside down. Jiang Pingji analyzed the situation calmly and added, The Su family has a rich heritage. They may be our future enemy. Now that there was a chance to step on them, it would be a pity to miss it. Your master is very clear about public and private matters. Even if we have a good personal relationship, we can't be careless about official matters. Although she had a good personal relationship with Su Bei, she still had to step on him when it came to official business. Xi's mind raced as he asked, Then in the alliance meeting, are we still supporting Su Bei? Jiang Pingji smiled and turned her head. Of course I support you. Your lord's words carry enormous weight. I won't break my promise easily. For the salted fish party, it didn't matter who they supported. If supporting Su Bei could maximize her benefits, why wouldn't she support him? The allied camp stretched for more than 200 miles. It was a magnificent sight. The flags fluttered in the cold wind. Jiang Pingji kept a low profile as she returned to the campsite. She was still thinking about all sorts of things. I heard that someone tried to assassinate the lord last night. Are you injured? Hearing that Jiang Pingji had returned, Fengzhen hurried over. Seeing that she was safe and sound, his anxious expression eased slightly. Jiang Pingji dismounted from her horse. She threw Little White's reins to her personal guard and faced Fengzhen. I forgot to bring you wine. Don't be angry. Fengzhen was stunned. After a while he understood the meaning behind Jiang Pingji's words. He almost choked with anger. Why was she still concerned about wine at this time? Don't worry, I'm not injured. I've gained a lot from this trip. I'll tell you in detail when we return to the tent. Jiang Pingji walked towards the tent as she spoke. Halfway through she thought of something and turned to ask Fengzhen, You just received news that I was attacked last night? Fengzhen replied, Yes. I was just about to rush over to Su Bei's campsite. I didn't expect you to return first. Jiang Pingji thought about it and knew that Su Bei had blocked the news. If the news was leaked before the matter was resolved and the big boss, Lu Shi, came, Su Bei wouldn't be able to handle it. Send someone to send a message to my father. Tell him that I've returned safely. The assassin didn't hurt me last night. Tell him not to worry. Fengzhen bowed and turned to summon a soldier. He asked the soldier to pass the news to Lu Shi, who was near the campsite, so that he wouldn't be worried. When Lu Shi received the message from the messenger, his heart that had been hanging in the air finally settled down. His brows relaxed slightly. He waved his hand at the messenger and said, Go and receive your reward. His daughter had been saved from danger. Indeed, he should reward the messenger. Lu Shi glanced at the sky outside the tent. He frowned so deeply that his brows almost formed a knot. He knew more inside information than Xianxia. Naturally, he knew that the assassination wasn't aimed at the Su brothers. It was obviously aimed at Jiang Pingji. It's good that she's safe. Amen. If your spirit is still here, You must protect her well. Lu Shi rubbed his hands together to generate heat. He let out a long sigh. His breath formed a white mist that drifted into the air. If there was anyone in the world who hated the father and son to the bone, he couldn't think of a second person besides that woman. Could it be that that stupid woman has finally come to her senses and knows Emperor Chen's identity? It's been so many years, yet she only found out. Ha! Lu Shi mocked in a low voice. He mumbled to himself, his voice so low that it was almost inaudible. It's a pity that she was still one step too late. The current Lanting is no longer a doll that can be squeezed by anyone. The corners of his lips curled into a faint smile. Even his gaze seemed to become gentle and profound, as if he could see another world. Wait a little longer. When Lanting reaches that position, your husband's wish will be fulfilled. Our family will have a complete reunion. It wasn't clear whether these words were meant for his own family or for someone who had already passed away. 2 flowers bloomed, one on each side. Su Bei volunteered to help and contacted a number of allied forces. This action made Su Bei's old rival Su Fei feel uneasy. He received a report from his informant. Lu Shi's son Lu Shi had been attacked by an assassin in Su Bei's tent last night. Upon hearing this news, his first reaction was happiness. Su Bei was going to be in big trouble. However, after the analysis of his tents, Su Fei broke out in a cold sweat. His emotions were in a mess and he didn't know what to do. Lu Shi had been attacked by an assassin. It would have been fine if he had died. However, he had been attacked by an assassin and didn't die. Who was the biggest suspect? Needless to say, this flying pot from the sky was directly pinned on Su Fei. Even if he had 100 mouths, he wouldn't be able to clear his name. If Su Bei fell, he would benefit the most. Hence, he had a motive to be a suspect. He had to bear the blame even if he didn't want to. However, it was the same problem. Standing in Su Fei's position, he felt that this was a self-directed play by his cousin, Su Bei. Su Bei, that hypocrite, is really hateful. He framed me for no reason. What a good show of a thief crying thief. When Su Fei received this news, he was so angry that smoke was coming out of his head. Chapter 7:11. All the strategists looked at each other in dismay, secretly lamenting Su Pei's scheming nature. He was ruthless enough and his heart was black enough. He had directed and acted out the assassination of Lu Shi. When the time came, all he had to do was push the blame onto Su Fei and he would be able to clear his name in an instant. Not only would he create a strong enemy for Su Fei, but he would also be able to tie the Lu father and son duo to Su Bei's chariot and gain a good reputation. Even if the negotiations between the Lu father and son and Su Pei broke down, because of this scapegoat, the Lu father and son would not turn to Su Fei. Thinking about it this way, Su Bei was the most suspicious. His motive was the strongest and he could be listed as the #1 suspect. Su Fei stood still, snorted coldly and asked the person beside him. What is that hypocrite doing now? First Langjun is holding a banquet for the allies. Eat, eat, eat. All day long he sets up banquets, drinks and presents beauties. Why can't he eat to death? Su Fei's expression was slightly twisted and with a bit of savagery, he said with incomparable mockery, "This cousin is really capable. Bringing a group of dancers and singers to protect the emperor, giving him gold, silver, jewels, luxurious carriages and beautiful women. For the sake of his reputation he really is unscrupulous. Now you even set up such a despicable trap to slander my innocence. Disgusting." The person beside her looked worried. He cupped his hands and said, "My lord, now is not the time to complain. With the support of the father and son of the Lu family, he has also roped in a bunch of forces. I'm afraid that the position of the alliance leader will fall into the hands of Elder Langjun. Even if we want to fight for it, the chances are slim." Su Fei's heart was filled with anger. I can see it. He boasted that he was not weaker than his cousin, but his cousin was good at putting on a show and he really could not compare. Do you have any good ideas? It would be best to drive a wedge between him and the Lu father and son. Su Fei was exasperated. If he couldn't get it, what right did his cousin have to get it? Relying on gold, silver, jewelry, cars and beautiful women to attract talents and accumulate reputation, what was there to be proud of? Someone said, "We can't. If we do that, we will be at a disadvantage instead." The anger in Su Fei's heart was about to explode. This won't do, that won't do, then what should I do? Why don't we prepare a generous gift and ask someone to apologize to Lu Xi on behalf of eldest Langjun? Su Fei was stunned. It was clearly Su Bei's fault. Why did he have to send a gift and apologize? The man continued his analysis. My lord, from what I've heard, Lu Xi and the eldest Langjun did not have anything to do with each other. It's obvious that the eldest Langjun has successfully framed you. If he tried to explain it to Lu Xi now, he would end up with a bad reputation for being a glib talker. Since that's the case, my lord might as well use the excuse of, my brother's lax governance allowed an assassin to sneak in, so I'm apologizing to Lu Xi on behalf of my brother, to contact him and reveal some suspicious points appropriately. If Lu Xi wasn't stupid, he would naturally investigate. What you find yourself is far more trustworthy than what others say. If Su Bei had acted appropriately, he might have shot himself in the foot. Thinking of this, Su Fei immediately sent someone to prepare a generous gift and sent a subordinate with authority to deliver the gift as a sign of solemnity. Jiang Pingji felt that Su Fei and Su Bei were indeed cousins. Their imagination was top-notch. After sending off Su Fei's messenger, Yang Si and Feng Zhen looked at the lavish gifts that filled half the commander's tent. Their eyes almost popped out of their sockets. What do they mean? Jiang Pingji smiled and said, it's most likely, they're suspecting each other. Qing Feng Shuang, they're pushing the blame to each other and suspecting each other? There's actually such an operation? A new invention? Zuiyun Cat Yao, Su Fei suspects that Su Bei is directing and acting on his own. Su Bei suspects that Su Fei is secretly cheating. Feels like a tongue twister. Layman Howie, I don't care if they're pushing the blame to each other. Anyway, our streamer is profiting from it. That's right, after all this commotion, the one who benefited in the end was actually Jiang Pingji. If the Su brothers knew the truth, would they shed silent tears? I keep having the feeling that today's alliance meeting will be a battlefield filled with the flames of war. Jiang Pingji clicked her tongue as if she was deeply moved. Yang Si and Feng Zhen glanced at each other. They could see the helplessness in each other's eyes. Shameless. If it wasn't for their lord secretly pulling such a stunt, the brothers wouldn't have fought so fiercely. Jiang Pingji was about to wash up and change into a new set of clothes when someone outside reported that Huang Song had come to visit. I heard that you were assassinated in Su Bei's tent last night? This time Huang Song didn't bring Qing Jing along. That he brought Feng Ju. Both of them were dressed casually. This time they were also visiting in private. Jiang Pingji leisurely greeted Feng Ju. Then she said, I can die under a peony flower and become a ghost in a romantic way. What's the big deal about being assassinated? Huang Song, Su Bei had good intentions. He wanted to gift that beautiful dancer to me. Who knew that the beauty was poisonous? He was actually an assassin. Huang Song was speechless. Based on his understanding of Lu Xi, although he liked beautiful women, he had always restrained himself. He remembered that many years ago when the three of them were still in Shangjing, the three of them would often hang out in brothels together. However, Lu Xi had never stayed overnight. At most he would listen to songs and music. Unexpectedly, after a few years, Lu Xi had also fallen into depravity. He had become a playboy who lingered among the flowers. Feng Ju said, you don't seem like such a careless person. You actually dared to enjoy a beauty gifted to you by a stranger? Jiang Pingji said with lingering fear, humans make mistakes, horses make mistakes. I was too careless. Last night was really thrilling. Huang Song also laughed and echoed, young and impulsive. Which man doesn't like beauty? However, everything has to be done in moderation. Don't go overboard. Huang Song and Feng Ju had only come over to take a look and make sure that she was fine. After exchanging conventional greetings, Huang Song and Feng Ju were about to get up and leave when Yang Si entered the tent with a stack of bamboo slips. Seeing that there was someone in the tent, he was startled. Seeing Huang Song's face, Yang Si's heart thumped. He had one foot in the tent and the other outside. He was hesitating whether to enter or leave. I seem to have seen you somewhere before. When Huang Song had come to visit, Feng Zhen and Yang Si had been dealing with the matters of setting up camp, so they had not met. Yang Si was strangely silent. Of course he had met Huang Song before, but it had not been recently. Thinking back to that time he had jumped ship and kicked Prince Xianxia out of the way, tricked his old master and left with his page boy. He had originally wanted to rely on Huang Song to see if he was a wise master, who knew that the gatekeeper of Huang Song's manor would bully him and suppress Yang Xi's visiting card. Later Huang Song had chased after him on horseback. Yang Xi's temper flared up, and he had arrogantly rejected the other party and even made up a fake name. He had continued to head north and fallen into Wei Xi's trap. Step by step he had been trapped by Jiang Pingji and Wei Xi into a bottomless pit called overtime. Thinking about it now he could not help but sigh. If he had directly obeyed Huang Song back then, perhaps he would not be so mentally exhausted now. At least Huang Song was much easier to fool than Jiang Pingji. Huang Song also remembered Yang Xi's identity. He called out with a faint smile, "Master Zhao, how have you been since we parted years ago?" Chapter 7:12. What's wrong, Jingrong? Do you know Bogeo? Jiang Pingji could tell that there was something fishy going on between them. She felt that the atmosphere was not awkward enough, so she fanned the flames. Yang Xi looked down and said, "Chief Huang, you've mistaken me for someone else. My surname is Yang and my first name is Xi." It was indeed Yang Xi. The smile on Huang Song's face seemed to be brighter, but the anger in his chest was quietly ignited. "So it's Master Yang Xi." Feng Ju secretly frowned and asked, "Are you working under Lanting now?" Yang Xi replied, "Yes." The atmosphere became even more awkward. "I missed the opportunity to meet you back then and I regret it to this day. Now that I know that you have a home to return to, I can finally put my mind at ease." Huang Song's words were both provocative and provocative. Yang Xi refused to show weakness. "Fate has been decided. I hope Chief Huang won't worry about it. However, fate is really hard to say. If I hadn't seen Chief Huang in the tent today, I wouldn't have known that you and my lord are such good friends. May I ask, has the county chief changed the gatekeeper to this day?" If the gatekeeper hadn't used his power to suppress the visiting card, Yang Xi wouldn't have waited for 3 days. Only a fool would continue to stay and wait for others if there was no reply in 3 days. Yang Xi's reply made Huang Song even angrier. Jiang Pingji looked at the two of them and said to Huang Song, "Bogeo, look at what you're saying. You're like a resentful wife who was cheated on by a scumbag." Yang Xi taunted and Jiang Pingji stabbed him with a knife, dealing a beautiful critical hit. Huang Song recalled what he had just said and his expression darkened. He gradually looked like the bottom of a pot. Yang Xi explained with a smile, smoothing things over. "My lord, you've wronged me. If someone was cheated on, it shouldn't be Chief Huang." Jiang Pingji put on an expression as if she was listening to gossip. Yang Xi told the story of the past to the point. These words were not only for Jiang Pingji, but also for Huang Song. Yang Xi didn't want to rely on Jiang Pingji at first. He just wanted to meet Wei Xi and collect his debt. He didn't expect Jiang Pingji to be overbearing and use both carrot and stick. Yang Xi fell into the trap. There were many details that he didn't go into, but the listeners could imagine the scene in their minds, which made them unable to restrain their laughter. Huang Song's complexion improved as a result, and his anger gradually subsided. Huang Song was angry not for anything else, but simply because Yang Xi had thrown himself into Jiang Pingji's arms after dumping him. He was originally a sensitive and suspicious person. Because of Yang Xi's matter, he had been brooding over it for many years. Coupled with Yang Xi's sarcasm, how could he not be angry? Now that it was out in the open, he accepted it calmly. If he didn't accept it, would he have to break off relations with Lu Xi because of Yang Xi? Or to make Lu Xi and Yang Xi alienate each other for his sake? Huang Song felt that his relationship with Lu Xi wasn't that strong yet, so he didn't want to embarrass himself. The meeting was to be held at dusk, and the venue was to be provided by Su Bei. Because of the short distance, Jiang Pingji, Lu Xi and Huang Song set off together and arrived together. Although they were father and son, Jiang Pingji and Lu Xi's forces were counted separately. Each of them was considered a force. Including Jiang Pingji, there were a total of 23 allied troops. Jiang Pingji had only arrived for 2 days, and the 2 days had been very exciting. Of course, she had no time to get to know the other forces. Each force had at least 10,000 soldiers and at most 50,000 soldiers. Other than these large forces, There were also many small forces with only a few thousand soldiers. They formed small groups and they could also occupy a place and have a little say. As the organizer, Su Bei sat at the head of the table. Other than the head of the table, the seat on the lower right was the most honorable. There was already a middle-aged man in a vermilion robe sitting there. Needless to say, he was the chief of Shanghai County Wumashang. Seeing the situation, Lu Shi chuckled and sat down on the lower left without a care. Jiang Pingji followed him and sat down next to him. Since ancient times, the right was the most honorable. The seat on the right was always slightly more honorable than the corresponding seat on the left. Jiang Pingji sat next to Lu Shi and the second seat on the right was empty. Su Fei sat there unceremoniously. The meeting had not yet begun, but the scene was already filled with the smell of gunpowder. This time Jiang Pingji did not bring Feng Zhen and Yang Si. Instead she brought Li Yun and Dian Yan. The meeting was a place that required brains, but it was also a place that required fists. If they could not come to an agreement through words, they could directly fight. Li Yun sat in the second row and quietly looked around. He lowered his voice and said, "My lord, there are so many people." The venue of the meeting was extremely large. The decorations around it did not seem like a simple campsite, but more like a luxurious palace. The flat ground was covered with a layer of pure animal skin. Even if one stepped on it barefoot, one would not feel the slightest bit cold. There were several bronze lamps in the shape of Chang'e flying in the sky, court ladies washing their clothes, and 100 birds paying homage to the phoenix. The lamp oil was filled with expensive spices. After burning, it caused the air to be filled with a strange fragrance. The inside of the tent was very bright as if it was daytime. Everything reflected one word: rich. There are indeed a lot of people. Li Yun still dared to look around, but Dian Yan sat upright and still as if he was facing a formidable enemy. He clenched his fists and placed them on his knees. His eyes were wide open as he stared straight ahead. Dian Yan looked fierce and fierce. He had a tanned face and a muscular body. When he put on such an appearance, the people opposite him almost jumped in fright. Opposite him, Su Fei was speechless. The process of the meeting was nothing more than the following: eat, drink, watch the dance. After 3 rounds of drinking, they would talk about business. If business was settled and everyone was happy, then they would continue serving food, eating, drinking, and watching the dance. If they had good luck with the ladies, they might even be able to take 1 or 2 dancers and go back for a night of pleasure. However, news had just spread that Jiang Pingji was almost assassinated by a dancer. The feudal lords probably did not dare to risk their lives. If business could not be settled, they would either continue to quarrel or leave on bad terms. No matter what the outcome was, it had nothing to do with Jiang Pingji. She and Lu Shi were just there to be bystanders. When the live stream started, 150,000 viewers instantly flooded in. 1,000 deaths are not like a moonlight. What's the situation now? It feels like the meeting is very leisurely. Yesterday was a banquet and today is still a banquet? Kneeling for monthly tickets. That's not right. There are so many people today. Their attractiveness levels are different. I'd better continue sucking up to little brother Li Yun. Kneeling for recommendation tickets. Surprise! The streamers summoned beasts today are not Feng Zhen or Yang Si. What's the point of not bringing along long-range sorcerers? Popular all over the world doll. Although she didn't bring along the sorcerers, the streamer brought along 2 violent combat types. Jiang Pingji was speechless. Why did it feel like the style of all the bullet screens had changed after not starting the livestream for a few hours? Unbeknownst to her, there was a studio in the livestream that had imitated other games and made a mobile game for entertainment. Simply put, it was a game where players created characters, chose different lords, and summoned various pets, subordinates. This game studio even imitated a certain mobile game and gave each subordinate different qualities and combat numbers. Because of the popularity of the livestream, the game had just been launched and the number of downloads was shockingly high. Currently, the 2 most popular pets were Wei Ci, of the sorcerers, and Li Yun of the combat types. The reason? Chapter 7:13. Knowing this, Jiang Pingji could only sigh. They were indeed people who knew how to do business. Host V, help me talk to the game company. If they use our characters to make money, they should at least give us some benefits. For a moment the entire live broadcast room was filled with ha 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 bullet screens, and some people even went to Weibo to comment on that studio. Jiang Pingji chatted passionately with the audience to kill time. The alliance meeting had already begun. As the host, Su Pei gave an impassioned opening speech, stirring up the emotions of the 23 feudal vassals and other idle fish. He encouraged everyone to work together to resist the enemy and expel the traitors. Even if it was a dry and uninteresting speech when used by Su Bei, he could still make it sound like a deluge of heavenly flowers. Everyone could not help but sigh with admiration at his grasp of rhythm. He was truly a master of rhythm. Everyone responded one after another. They did not swear, but they unanimously expressed their indignation towards Prince Xianxia. Jiang Pingji had just finished chatting with the audience when she realized that everyone around her was crusading against Prince Xianxia. This made her frown slightly. The alliance meeting to rescue the emperor is not a battle meeting. What's the use of these people scolding Prince Xianxia? She shook her head in amusement. Lu Shi, who was nearby, also had a faint smile on his face. He secretly passed her a plate of dried fruits for her to munch on as a snack. Lu Shi couldn't help but laugh. Just watch, don't speak. The spectators should have the qualities of a spectator. They should just watch and not say anything and let them argue all they want. Su Bei surveyed the crowd and was extremely satisfied with the rhythm of the battle. However, when his gaze swept over the father and son pair, the corner of his eye twitched strangely. Just as the nature of the alliance meeting was about to change, a clear voice attracted everyone's attention. The person who spoke was Jiang Pingji's old friend, Huang Song. Everyone, please listen to me. Huang Song had brought 15,000 soldiers and he was a county governor, so his seat among the 23 vassal factions was very close to the front. He stood up from his seat and bowed with cupped fists. Traitors naturally have to be dealt with, but traitors are cunning. Seeing that the alliance has the advantage in numbers, they have been entrenched in their defenses for the past few days. 1 or 2 days is fine, but as time goes on, I'm afraid there will be changes. Someone retorted, what other variables can there be? How can a 400,000-strong army not be able to deal with Prince Xianxia? Prince Xianxia is a traitor to the country. If we don't kill him, we won't be able to pacify the people. Prince Xianxia will definitely be terror-stricken when he hears of this. Why should we be afraid of him? Su Bei raised his hand to suppress the other voices. He asked warmly, why does County Chief Huang say such a thing? Huang Song replied, before the troops and horses move, the provisions and fodder move first. All of you have led your elites into battle, and this is where the alliance meeting will be held. Do you have enough rations? How long could the provisions last? Prince Xianxia has Zhangzhou to rely on, and the Meng family of Zhangzhou is in cahoots with him on the outside. He has sufficient troops and rations. If he fortifies the walls and clears the fields, he will not come out and fight us to the death. How long do you think we can last? Since Prince Xianxia had the Mengs as his ally, he could afford to drag things out, but the alliance could not. Many people's expressions changed when they heard this. The local tyrants were not afraid of squandering money. Fighting a war was like throwing money away. Some people were short of money and had weak families. They could not afford to fight a long war. Thinking of this, the voice that was clamoring just now suddenly became mute, unable to stifle even half a word. Huang Song smiled and asked another question. Marching to war is not child's play. There are many things to pay attention to when it comes to arranging troops and formations. There are 23 forces present and each has their own way of fighting. If we face off against Prince Xianxia's army, will we fight on our own, or will we work together? Of course we will work together and coordinate with each other. If we fight on our own, even if we have 400,000 strong troops, we will still be scattered like sand. Prince Xianxia only needs to find the weakest point of the formation and he can easily break it. Even if the god of war comes, he will be powerless when faced with such scattered sand. At that moment someone responded to Huang Song. The person who spoke had a gentle and unique voice that was extremely recognizable. Unlike the boldness of the northerners, it was a gentle and affectionate voice that was unique to the south. Jiang Pingji raised her head when she heard this. The corners of her lips curled into a slight smile. She looked, it was someone she knew. Everyone looked in the direction of the voice and saw a man in plain clothes sitting in the corner. He was dressed rather shabbily, but he had a very noble temperament. The other party sensed Jiang Pingji's gaze and nodded slightly, returning a smile. Jiang Pingji also greeted him through the air. That person was none other than Enchui, the one who had helped her quickly recover Qingda County, and Duoxi. Enchui had set off a few days earlier than Jiang Pingji. Because he was a nobody and mostly had miscellaneous troops, he could not be considered an official feudal power. Although he was looked down upon, Enchui was not angry. As long as he had a seat at the alliance meeting, he did not ask for much else. Huang Song did not know Enchui, but Enchui's answer was good, allowing him to smoothly elicit the next part of the conversation. Just like what the gentleman said just now, if there is no unified command, the 400,000 allied troops will be scattered like sand. They will be a motley crew in Prince Changshuo's eyes. So what if they have a large number of troops? They are not worth fearing at all. He only needs to use the delay tactic to make the allied troops fall apart and return with their tails between their legs. Huang Song straightened his expression and said solemnly, "Does everyone think that what I said makes sense?" Everyone had a guilty conscience. A few of the big shots looked deep in thought. The father and son of the Liu family were still watching the show. What sense does it make? Someone disagreed. Everyone looked and saw that the person who spoke was a burly old general. Looking at his face, this person was rather stubborn. The youngsters who stand out today will only boost the morale of others and diminish their own prestige. The allied troops have 400,000 men and horses. How can they not deal with a mere thief? Let's not talk about anything else. If I were to go out, I would definitely chop off the thief's head and use it as a teacup. Huang Song did not like to reason with stubborn people because the other party would not listen. It did not matter how much he said. A thief is a thief, but we cannot look down on him just because he is a thief. You are an old general and I respect you, but I will not agree with what you said just now. Prince Changshuo has 100,000 elite troops. The Meng family of Tsang Prefecture used their military seal to mobilize 50,000 to help. Among them there are also 10,000 cavalry. The troops are strong and their horses are strong. They have ample provisions. On the other hand, our allied troops claim to have 400,000 strong soldiers, but how many true elites do we have? The old general wanted to say something but was pushed back by the people beside him. He could only flush with anger. In a public event like the alliance meeting, he was actually humiliated by a junior, a descendant of a eunuch. How could he not be angry? Su Bei lowered his eyes and continued Huang Song's words. Chief Huang's words are naturally reasonable. What brilliant plan do you have? Huang Song paused and finally revealed his plan. The only way is to elect an alliance leader to lead the allied troops. When Su Bei heard this, the corners of his lips curled up. Huang Song's words were exactly what he wanted. He was about to ask in detail when a fool jumped out of nowhere and suggested, "Elect an alliance leader? This is a good plan. This way we can unify the distribution of military supplies and let the allied troops be united. We can advance and retreat together. Only then can we contend against the thieves." Chapter 7:14. For the powerful feudal lords, this suggestion was beneficial, but for those with poor family backgrounds, the disadvantages far outweighed the advantages. Military supplies would be allocated and rations and resources would be supervised by others. Everyone was afraid of being at a disadvantage. Jiang Pingji almost choked. She hurriedly gulped down a pot of water to calm herself down. The person who suggested this is a bit naive, really. This suggestion was terrible. Not to mention others, even Li Yun and Dian Yan could tell that it was unrealistic. Their own troops, their own rations, their own horses. Why should they be under someone else's control? It was undeniable that there were saints who were willing to do so, but the allied forces all had their own plans. They haggled over every cent, so why would they be willing to be at a disadvantage? Even if they all agreed their family backgrounds and assets were different. What if they withheld a portion and reported a false number? It had to be said that this idea was too naive. The difficulty of actually carrying it out was as high as the heavens. Jiang Pingji curiously looked in the direction of the voice. She realized that the idiot who had spoken was sitting behind Yang Jian. He was probably one of Yang Jian's men. "Sit down, unfilial son. You have no right to speak here." Yang Jian's old face was flushed. He was so angry that he looked extremely ashamed. Jiang Pingji understood. So this idiot was Yang Jian's son. It was truly a misfortune for the family to have such an innocent son. Father, Yang Tao didn't know what he had done wrong. He stammered, feeling a little guilty. He wanted to ask where he had done wrong, but he was afraid that his question would be too stupid and incur his father's wrath. Sitting next to Yang Tao was a handsome young scholar who forced a smile on his face. Jingzi, sit down. The young scholar secretly facepalmed. How could such a stupid and naive fellow be his friend? Yang Tao shrank his neck. He looked pitiful. Under the attacks of both his father and his best friend, he sat down pitifully. Jiang Pingji held back her laughter. So you are Yang Jian's son. What an interesting person. Lu Shi nonchalantly agreed. His gaze lingered on Yang Tao for a while as if he was observing something. He slightly lowered his eyes. His gaze was somewhat complicated. Although he looks a little simple-minded, he is not simple. His future is limitless. Jiang Pingji looked at Lu Shi in surprise, then at Yang Tao. She laughed and teased. Simple-minded indeed. As for not simple. Forgive my poor judgment, but I really can't tell. This person looks like a clean sheet of paper. One can see through him at a glance. It is rare. I thought that Commandant Yang's son would also be a brave young general, but now that I've seen him, he's completely different from what I imagined. Instead, he looks more like the foolish son of a landlord. Lu Shi laughed. Perhaps the foolish have their own fortune. The father and son talked in a low voice, which was incompatible with the surrounding atmosphere. Yang Jian had already been isolated by the alliance, and now that his son had caused such a ruckus, he felt like he had lost all face. He's just a child who doesn't know any better. He's just babbling nonsense. Don't take it to heart. Yang Jian's smile was very forced. Even his carefully groomed beard could not hide his awkwardness. In his mind, he had already given his son a few beatings. The atmosphere was slightly tense. Su Bei smiled as he tried to smooth things over, bringing the topic back to the main topic. He didn't keep them in suspense. He hurriedly explained his plan to prevent another simple-minded person from popping up. According to Huang Song's plan, the armies of the 23 powers would still be managed by themselves. They would still be self-sufficient in terms of military expenses. According to Huang Song's plan, the armies of the 23 powers would still be managed by themselves. They would still be self-sufficient in terms of military expenses. However, once the alliance leader issued an order, they would have to prioritize the alliance. They would have to cooperate in attack or defense. Selfish motives were not allowed. The alliance leader had a certain amount of authority over them, but he would not interfere with their internal affairs. He would not require them to pay extra. Compared to Yang Tao's idea, everyone preferred Huang Song's. They were willing to lend out their troops and cooperate in battle, but they couldn't hand over military authority to outsiders. For example, if the alliance leader had selfish motives and purposely preserved the strength of his own army, then turned around and pushed the other powers to the front lines, what should they do? They didn't want to measure the heart of a gentleman with the yardstick of a villain, but they had to be wary of others. The 23 powers present were all connected. Who could guarantee that there were no grudges between them? Huang Song's suggestion was exactly what they wanted. It could unify the alliance and prevent it from disintegrating. It also dispelled their worries. Su Pei said, "This is a good plan. What do you all think?" There were almost no objections. It was considered a unanimous decision. Now the highlight of the show was here. Who would be the alliance leader? Everyone looked at each other. No one wanted to be the first to stand out. They silently waited for others to recommend them. Yes, they were waiting for others to recommend them. Everyone present was a big shot. Why would they act like they were trying to sell their melons and boast about themselves? Even if they were itching to get a megaphone and shout, choose me," on the surface, they would still decline in a reserved manner. In Jiang Pingji's words, this was pretentious. People who were modest did not behave this way. Jiang Pingji thought that the first to stand out would be Huang Song. She didn't expect someone to be one step ahead of him and speak first. I think that County Chief Wu Ma of Hu County is the most suitable candidate for the alliance leader position. The person who spoke was Chui. When he spoke, Su Pei and Su Fei's expressions turned ugly. Chui continued, County Chief Wu Ma is a relative of the royal family. In terms of seniority, he is the uncle of the current emperor. He has great prestige and a strong military force. I think that if County Chief Wu Ma is the alliance leader and the alliance army conquers Prince Changshu, saving the emperor and the people, it will be even more justifiable. Wu Ma Shang sat on the right side of the seat. From beginning to end he looked like he was daydreaming. His entire image did not fit in with the crowd. And Cui had pushed him into the battle for the alliance leader position. Jiang Pingji didn't know if it was Cui's idea or County Chief Wu Ma's. Jiang Pingji looked over and was more inclined to County Chief Wu Ma's idea. Looked like he was quite ambitious. She grabbed a handful of dried fruits and stuffed them into her mouth, eating them with relish. Tasted even better with this good show. That's not right. In my opinion, County Chief Wu Ma is not the best candidate. Qing Jing, who was behind Huang Song, stood up from his seat. The moment he opened his mouth, he attracted everyone's attention. Hearing Qing Jing's voice, Wu Ma Shang, who had been silent all this time, turned his eyes and looked at Qing Jing. Who are you? Qing Jing's personality was not one to flaunt. He calmly said, I am Qing Jing of Langia, a nobody. If it were Feng Zhen, he would definitely retort, I am Master Yuanjing's first disciple. In a place like Dongqing, Master Yuanjing was a living signboard. With his name on it, one's value would rise. Wu Ma Shang looked away. Chapter 7:15. The way he spoke was also known as the aristocratic accent. It was elegant and tactful with a hint of a different kind of elegance. Many people deliberately pursued such a way of speaking in order to be cultured. Although this tone sounded elegant and beautiful, it sounded distant and disdainful under different circumstances. The meaning behind Wu Ma Shang's words clearly belonged to the latter. Huang Song glared angrily at Wu Ma Shang. He had actually dared to humiliate Qing Jing in front of him. Did this person really think that being a member of the imperial family was so great? Just as he was about to open his mouth to regain his dignity, he heard Jiang Pingji's half-smiling voice. It was a familiar voice with a tone that made one's skin crawl. As it turned out, when Wu Ma Xian was criticizing Qing Jing, Jiang Pingji turned her head and asked her father a question in the same tone of a gentry. Father, I've heard that Master Yuanjing's disciples are all talents that the feudal vassals want to rope in. They are very popular. Now that I've seen it, I feel that this rumor cannot be completely trusted. If that wasn't the case, how could senior brother Qing Jing have been slapped in the face? After all, he was Master Yuanjing's first disciple. He shouldn't be so down, right? Or is Master Yuanjing not as good as he used to be? Wu Ma Shang, what? Whose first disciple? Qing Jing glanced at Jiang Pingji, his expression calm as usual. There is a reason why Jing said that County Chief Wu Ma is not the best candidate. Let me ask all of you, which traitor is it that has shaken the foundation of the country? That person used his status as a member of the imperial clan to attempt to encroach on the throne and bring chaos to the nation. It might not be appropriate for Chief Wu Ma to become the leader of the 400,000 allied army. What if the traitors bite back, slandering us for not coming to the rescue of the emperor, but for gathering the masses to rebel to establish a new ruler? What should we do then? These casual words made Wu Ma Shang's face turn as black as the bottom of a pot. This person could no longer maintain his original noble bearing and glared angrily at Qing Jing, as if he wanted to stare 2 holes in his eyes. Jiang Pingji secretly gave Qing Jing a thumbs up. This brother's words were extremely vicious. Qing Jing and Wei Ci were indeed Master Yuanjing's disciples. The senior and junior brothers were of the same lineage. Usually they did not make a sound, but when they made a move it was fatal. It was a dark heart passed down from generation to generation. Begging for monthly votes on my knees. Qing Jing versus Wu Ma Shang, Qing Jing wins. Qing Shan Mujio. It was a clean win. He struck his opponent out 3 times. Qiu Zipio. When Cui mentioned it, I also felt that Wu Ma Shang was the most suitable candidate to be the leader. After all, his status and experience are there for all to see. However, when it was Qing Jing's turn to speak, I was speechless. Qing Jing's battle prowess was off the charts. He had directly pinned Wu Ma Shang to the ground and cleanly stripped him of his right to compete for the position of alliance leader. I don't know if it's just my imagination, but Qing Jing seems to hold a grudge. Do you guys feel the same way? He felt that after today the magical follower pet Qing Jing was going to be famous. Wu Shang had used disdainful words and attitude to humiliate Qing Jing, and Qing Jing had immediately responded. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. You deliberately humiliated me, so I directly stepped on your weak spot. The slap in the face came too quickly like a hurricane. Before the audience could react, Wu Shang had already been sent out of the competition stage. Qing Jing had already given his word, so no one dared to go against his wishes and recommend Wu Shang again. As the first person to recommend Wu Shang, and Cui was not angry. It was as if he had not said what he had said earlier. As the host, Su Bei gave Qing Jing a look of praise. He was surprised. If Lu Shi had not mentioned it, he would not have known that Master Yuanjing's disciples had already entered officialdom. He had already met 2 of them in such a short time. One assisted Lu Shi, the other Huang Song. Wei Xi's drawing skills shocked him. Qing Jing had a sharp tongue and hit the nail on the head. Su Bei was both happy and regretful. Such a talent was not his. And Cui's recommendation of Wu Shang was reasonable and well-founded. Su Bei had been worried for a while. After all, Wu Shang was a member of the royal family. If the other party was determined to fight, the competition would be very strong. Unexpectedly, Qing Jing had appeared midway and directly killed Wu Shang's right to participate in the competition. Su Bei found him very pleasing to the eye. Master Qing has thought things through thoroughly. Do you have a suitable candidate in mind? Qing Jing lowered his eyes, his gaze drifting to Jiang Pingji. I believe that in terms of ability, prestige and experience, Lu Shi is the best candidate. Qing Jing did not say that Lu Shi was the best person. If Lu Shi was not willing to be the alliance leader, everyone had other choices. Jiang Pingji raised her eyebrows. Was Qing Jing trying to stir up trouble? She secretly glanced at Qing Jing, who was also looking at her. Qing Jing nodded slightly at her, a friendly smile on his face. Naturally, Lu Shi would not take the blame. He tactfully declined, expressing that he was not suitable to be the alliance leader. At the same time, he flattered Su Bei and Su Fei. He was impartial, making it difficult for others to figure out his stance. Su Bei secretly broke out in a cold sweat, afraid that something unexpected would happen. If Lu Shi changed his stance at the last minute, his painstaking efforts would go down the drain. When he looked at Jiang Pingji, she gave him a look indicating for him to be at ease. Only then did Su Bei's anxious heart calm down. Lu Shi kicked the ball out, but he also circled out the candidates, Su Bei and Su Fei. Everyone present was shrewd. Before the start of the alliance meeting, the Su brothers had made frequent moves. They all knew in their hearts that the battle for the alliance leader would be decided between these 2. A snake could not live without a head. No matter how they wrangled, there had to be an alliance leader. Su Bei had a group of supporters, but Su Fei also had his own fans. Jiang Pingji and Lu Shi watched the show. The father and daughter worked together to finish 4 plates of dried fruits. There was only 1 plate on each table. After they finished their portion, they even took Li Yun and Dian Yan's portions. I'm thirsty from all the food. We've wrangled for more than 2 hours. It's just a trivial matter, yet we've been arguing for so long. Lu Shi smiled faintly and lowered his voice. It's a matter of interests and disputes. It's always a long process. That was why he did not care for the alliance leader position. It was just an empty title. What was the point of wasting so much effort? Excluding Lu Shi and Lu Shi, Su Fei had received slightly more support than Su Bei. Unfortunately, Su Bei had already gained Jiang Pingji's friendship the day before. With the Lu family's father and son joining the alliance, Su Bei had a clear advantage over Jiang Pingji and became the alliance leader. Even though he was prepared when the dust settled, Su Bei still could not suppress the excitement in his heart. On the other hand, Su Fei's expression darkened. If it wasn't for Su Bei's deceit, scheming against him and pulling away the support of the Lu father and son, the alliance leader position would have been his. The alliance leader was successfully chosen. Everyone happily ate, drank, and enjoyed the dance of the dancers. The atmosphere was joyous. On the surface, it seemed that everything was on track. Everyone was full of confidence in the crusade against Prince Changshou and the reorganization of the imperial court. The road before them was smooth and the future was bright. Inside the tent there was an endless stream of music. Graceful beauties swayed their graceful bodies. Watching them made one's eyes go wide and their limbs stiffen. Such an atmosphere was too lively. Regardless of whether one could drink or not, they all drank a little. Chapter 716. After embarrassing himself, Yang Tao obediently sat in the background. Looking at the wine on the table, the alcohol in his stomach began to stir. Xiaoyang, just let me drink a little. Just 1 cup? Not even a drop. The young scholar glanced at him coldly. Yang Tao tensed up. Your old wounds haven't healed and you still want to drink? Yang Tao lowered his head and looked at his father Yang Jian, who was sitting in front of him, gulping down wine. He seemed to be in a bad mood. Father, your arrow wounds haven't healed yet. You shouldn't drink right now. Yang Jian glared at him. Little brat, now you have the guts to mind your father's business? Yang Tao was speechless. His heart had been stabbed twice by his best friend and father. His heart was broken. The young scholar Yang Tao, called Xiaoyang, held his wine cup and observed the scene around him. Everyone was drunk and the atmosphere was very lively. In comparison, the people around Yang Jian treated him like air. They looked everywhere but at him, obviously isolating him. Yang Jian's drinking had something to do with this. The young scholar squinted his eyes and snorted with disdain. Even though the leader of the alliance had been elected, it didn't change the fact that everyone had their own agenda. He wasn't optimistic about the outcome of this rescue mission. Otherwise, why wouldn't everyone seriously discuss the plan after the leader was elected? Instead, they were drinking and having fun. As he thought about it, he keenly noticed that someone was staring at him. After searching for a while, he finally found the source of the gaze. It was Lu Shi. The middle-aged man sitting on the left smiled at him in a friendly manner. The young scholar was suspicious. Xiaoyang, I just saw Governor Lu smiling at me, Yang Tao whispered to his best friend. The young scholar frowned and suppressed his suspicions. Yeah. Governor Lu is just as I imagined. A gentle and kind person. A long time ago, Lu Shi was still the governor of Hu County. Zhangzhou's East Gate County had a food shortage and had to rely on Hu County's food to survive. Therefore, Yang Tao had a good impression of Lu Shi. He always believed that he was a good person. If Yang Jian knew what his son was thinking, he would definitely vomit blood. How was Lu Shi a good person? Did he send food for disaster relief for free? That was all because Yang Jian had paid a price for it. Lu Shi, that unscrupulous businessman, had squeezed him dry in secret. How could he be considered a good person? The young man beside Lu Prefecture's magistrate is Lu Shi, the one who asked father for help? He looks all right, but his bones aren't too strong. Not strong enough. When Yang Jian heard his son's words, he almost spat out the wine in his mouth. If Lu Shi could not be considered healthy, then what kind of person could be considered healthy? Learn from other people's wisdom. You're already an adult, yet you only know how to write your own name. Yang Tao, who had been ridiculed by his father for no reason, was speechless. It's okay, I have Xiaoyang anyway. Yang Tao admitted that he wasn't good at studying and his brain wasn't good at scheming, but it was fine as long as his close friend was good at it. To put it in more modern terms, Yan Lin was Yang Tao's external brain, and this was a one-to-one match. The banquet lasted until the middle of the night. Most of the people in the tent were drunk. Jiang Pingji also drank some wine and prepared to get up to change her clothes. Magistrate Lu. As soon as she stepped out of the tent, she realized that someone was following her. She couldn't help but stop. You are? She squinted her eyes and realized that it was the young scholar beside Yang Tao. I am Yan Lin, courtesy name Xiaoyang, the young scholar said. Magistrate, when do you plan to return the man you borrowed? Jiang Pingji crossed her arms and asked him in return. Why? It hasn't even been 2 days and County Military Chief Yang is already rushing me? Yan Lin said, the County Military Chief didn't rush me. It was my idea. I think Qi Kuang is a good person. I'm afraid he won't return him. I don't think County Military Chief Yang will mind if a centurion stays or goes. Borrow? He always took. Even if she borrowed, she would never return it. Yan Lin frowned. Jiang Pingji's words had confirmed his speculation. Magistrate Lu is still stuck in the north and his footing isn't stable. Yet he's already thinking about the south where there's plenty of water. He was eating from his bowl and looking at the pot, but he was still thinking about the one that hadn't been put into the pot. Everyone should have dreams. Can't I prepare for a rainy day? Jiang Pingji said with a smile. The water army will come in handy sooner or later. Magistrate Lu, you have great ambitions, Yan Lin said. If you don't have ambitions, what's the difference between you and a stranded salted fish? Jiang Pingji suddenly thought of something. She said, instead of testing me, Mr. Yan, why don't you help County Military Chief Yang find a way out? He's someone Prince Changsho promoted, so the Alliance is afraid of him. But he's already on the same boat as the Alliance. In Prince Changsho's eyes, he's betraying his master. If Yang Jian is pushed to the vanguard position, you have to be careful. She wasn't afraid of anything else, but she was afraid that Yang Jian would be used as cannon fodder by the Alliance to test Prince Changsho's combat power. Yan Lin's face darkened. He knew that Jiang Pingji wasn't lying. He'd been worried about that recently. Thank you for the reminder. No problem. Jiang Pingji and Lu Shi ate their fill. The father and daughter brought a group of guards with them and prepared to leave. On the way, Li Yun, the honest child, said, My lord, I feel that something's wrong with this alliance meeting. Jiang Pingji asked him, What's wrong? Why did they only choose one alliance leader? Why didn't they discuss how to split the troops, how to save His Majesty, or how to resist Prince Changsho? As Jiang Pingji's military officer, Li Yun was young and inexperienced. Even though he was full of doubts, he didn't dare say anything. After all, not everyone was as naive and pure as Yang Tao. Dian Yan followed behind. I also feel that something's wrong, but I can't pinpoint what's wrong, Jiang Pingji explained with a smile. Everyone has their own plans. They're all very shrewd. Whoever takes the vanguard will sacrifice more. Who would be willing to suffer such a loss? Who wouldn't want to take advantage of the situation if they could take advantage of the situation? Who wouldn't want to take advantage of the situation without putting in any effort? Now let's see who can't hold back and bring up the matter of sending troops first. If no one brings it up, I'm afraid it'll drag on for a few more days. Li Yun was dumbfounded. In his imagination, the forces of the alliance meeting were all brave and good at fighting. They would fight to the death with Prince Changsho no matter what. At the banquet just now, he also heard many people denouncing Prince Changsho. They scolded him to their heart's content, wishing they could dig up his ancestors' graves. But in reality, one by one they shouted slogans and fought to be at the back. Jiang Pingji smiled faintly and concluded, So you see, the outcome of this alliance meeting won't be good. Then my lord, what should we do? Li Yun asked. Jiang Pingji said, Your lord is here to take a look. I'm not here to fight to the death. Let's just go with the flow. Li Yun was silent for a while. He said, It's a pity that Officer Meng. He's been working hard these days. Meng Hun was so busy that he couldn't be seen. Apart from eating and sleeping, he spent the rest of his time training his troops or practicing martial arts. Even the bystanders would feel exhausted for him when they saw how desperate he was. Chapter 717. This is already the third day. The alliance leader's tent is filled with joyous songs. The feudal vassals are drunk and dreaming, indulging in the land of beauties. Qing Jing and Feng Ju sat opposite each other. The two of them each held a black and white chess piece and were fighting on the chessboard. It was hard to determine the victor. Feng Ju's expression was calm and his jade-like black eyes drooped slightly. Didn't you already expect this? Everyone in the alliance meeting had their own ulterior motives. The Lu father and son and the Su brothers, who were capable of carrying the weight of the alliance, had gone on strike and slacked off, while the latter only knew how to study their reputation and form cliques for personal gain. The alliance was like a group of dragons without a leader. Even though they had formed an alliance and chosen an alliance leader, in the end, they were still not strong enough. If people are of one mind, what's the difference between that and a plate of loose sand? Feng Ju lowered his voice and thought about his next move. This time it was his turn to make a move. He had to be extremely careful with this step. Otherwise, what awaited him would be Qing Jing's storm-like attacks. Feng Ju's style of playing chess was to advance step by step. Regardless of whether it was offense or defense, he had to be flawless, which was suitable for long-term battles. The longer he delayed, the better it would be for him. Qing Jing's style was somewhat similar to Feng Ju's. What was different was that once he found a loophole, the originally gentle breeze and drizzle would turn into a violent storm, extremely aggressive. Feng Ju was steady, while Qing Jing was seeking danger amidst stability. Qing Jing said, What a pity. I thought Lu Shi would fight for the position of alliance leader. If this person is the alliance leader, the situation might be different. Feng Ju was surprised and asked, "Does Yumo have a high opinion of Lu Lanting? Lu Xi alone was able to reverse the decline of so many vassal forces?" Lu Xi studied under Master for 3 years. Master valued him very much. Lu Xi had studied for 3 years, stirred up trouble for 3 years and constantly made enemies. If he didn't have a strong backer and a good father to support him, he might have gotten into trouble long ago. However, this person was capable of causing trouble and was not afraid of it. On the surface he looked calm and composed, but on the inside he hated evil as if it was his enemy. If he were the alliance leader, he probably wouldn't be able to tolerate those people who indulged in singing and dancing all day long. As for Su Bei, a glib tongue, good at business, concerned about reputation but not about facts. With such a person as the alliance leader, in the end he will only pretend that everything is peaceful. Don't underestimate the fact that the alliance leader's reputation was greater than his actual power. However, he still had some influence on the alliance. With Su Bei's personality as the alliance leader, he was bound to fail miserably. Qing Jing could see it clearly, which was why he didn't have high hopes for this alliance meeting. He wasn't the only one. Many people in the alliance could see it too, but they didn't say it out loud. Feng Ju looked down. That's a pity. Lu Xi obviously wants to stay out of this. He won't get involved in this. As the two of them were talking, the tent flap was lifted and cold wind poured in through the opening. Huang Song's footsteps were hurried and his face was still full of anger. Qing Jing and Feng Ju looked at each other and then at Huang Song. The alliance isn't holding a banquet? The banquet was disrupted by Yang Jian. He brought men with him and charged into the tent. What? How could Yang Jian? Feng Ju was shocked by the news. Why would Yang Jian suddenly bring his men to the alliance's camp? Huang Song took a deep breath. Seeing Feng Ju's reaction, he knew that he had misunderstood. He hurriedly explained. I haven't finished speaking. Yang Jian only brought a few personal guards with him and charged into the tent. However, he didn't hurt anyone. He only broke everyone's table and caused a scene at the banquet. He called out Su Bei by name, pointed at his nose and scolded him. The situation just now was spectacular. Those people's faces looked as if they had been splashed with ink. How satisfying. When Feng Ju and Qing Jing heard this, they groaned inwardly. Did Yang Jian have a death wish? Yang Jian had already been isolated by the alliance. Now he had caused a scene at the camp and threatened the alliance leader. One could only imagine how much damage Yang Jian's power would suffer. Qing Jing thought about it and suddenly felt that something was wrong. He said, My lord, could it be that Yang Jian has left the alliance? Huang Song was gulping down water. When he heard Qing Jing's words, he instinctively replied. How did Yumo know? The alliance held banquets every day. Qing Jing and Feng Ju were extremely disgusted by this and refused to go. They would rather stay in the tent and play chess. Qing Jing thought to himself as expected. Yang Jian is trying to protect himself. If he doesn't find a chance to leave the alliance, I'm afraid he'll bring disaster upon himself. Although I don't know who advised him to do this, it was indeed a smart move. Without destruction there can't be construction. If we don't make a big deal out of it, we'll be passive at every turn. Qing Jing frowned as if deep in thought. Oh right, when my lord came in from outside the tent just now, why did you look so angry? If Qing Jing hadn't mentioned this, Huang Song would have almost forgotten. As soon as he mentioned it, the anger that was about to be extinguished reignited. Those bastards in the alliance are really inhumane, Huang Song scolded angrily. At the same time, Jiang Pingji returned to her own camp, reeking of alcohol. She wore a faint smile on her lips and seemed to be in a good mood. She went to the alliance to report to Su Bei. Su Bei had already helped her find 15 clients. Including Su Bei, she had sold 16 recipes for the flashing bricks. This was a huge sum of money. How could Jiang Pingji not be happy? As for how chaotic the alliance was, she didn't care. Li Yun blindly followed behind her, guarding her sides with Dian Yan. My lord, will Chief Yang be all right? Jiang Pingji smiled and said, if Yang Jian hadn't caused a ruckus today, he would be. That day she brought Li Yun and Dian Yan to the alliance's camp for free food and drinks. Halfway through the meal, Yang Jian and a dozen guards in armor barged into the tent. Without saying a word, they drew their swords and chopped down a few tables. Everyone was in a mess. Yang Jian pointed at everyone's noses and started scolding them. Su Bei was the one who was scolded the most. To be honest, regarding Yang Jian's scolding, Jiang Pingji believed that someone must be helping him from behind. Otherwise, how could he have scolded them so fluently? Even if he scolded them, Yang Jian's scolding was reasonable. While everyone was angry, they couldn't help but feel guilty. After scolding them to his heart's content, Yang Jian announced that he was withdrawing from the alliance. He was only withdrawing from the alliance, not giving up on protecting the emperor. He was willing to use all his military forces to save the emperor, but he didn't want to be in cahoots with these thugs in the alliance. After saying this, Yang Jian left with his guards, leaving behind a room full of dumbfounded people. Thinking of that scene, Jiang Pingji couldn't help but laugh. It was too funny. Why? Because before Yang Jian ran over to cause a ruckus, someone had already suggested letting Yang Jian's troops take the lead. It was obvious that they wanted to use them as cannon fodder. Once this suggestion was made, it was immediately seconded by many. No one cared about Yang Jian's personal opinion. After a short while, Yang Jian ran to the tent with his guards and caused a ruckus. Then he left in a carefree manner. The slap in the face came too quickly, like a hurricane passing through. On the other side, when Yang Jian heard the exact news, he was furious but also vaguely afraid. Chapter 7:18. Yang Jian slammed his fist on the table angrily. Yan Lin said calmly, "The most important thing now is to protect ourselves and prevent them from backstabbing us." Yang Jian's actions this time had thoroughly offended the alliance. However, he had only withdrawn from the alliance, not the emperor. Those people couldn't do anything to Yang Jian in the open. After some time, the alliance leader Su Bei might come personally. "Has my lord thought of a way to deal with him?" Yang Tao asked curiously. "What is Su Bei coming here for?" Yan Lin smiled as he explained, "Su Bei is the alliance leader. If he doesn't handle this matter well, then any of the feudal vassals will withdraw from the alliance at will. The alliance will only exist in name, and his authority as the alliance leader will be gone as well. Therefore Su Bei will definitely come." Yang Tao had no idea. He felt that he couldn't think of a good solution, so he just waited for his friend. Yan Lin was already used to it. He said, "If Su Bei comes personally, he will definitely apologize and invite my lord back. With the previous farce, the alliance will not dare to go overboard or be too conspicuous. My lord, you can be more magnanimous and let bygones be bygones." Yang Tao was surprised. Why? He just withdrew from the alliance and now he's going back? It would be embarrassing to be so fickle. Yang Jian understood. Creating a ruckus at the banquet was not so much to protect themselves, but to express their attitude and make the alliance afraid. If things went too far with just Yang Jian's 15,000 troops, it would be difficult for them to resist the pressure of the alliance. Rather than having a falling out, it was better to each take a step back and protect each other's reputation and interests. "All right, then let's do as Xiaoyang suggested." As expected, 2 hours later, Su Bei came to visit them personally. When Jiang Pingji heard Su Bei swallow his pride and advise Yang Jian, she knew that the highlight of the alliance meeting was about to begin. Yang Jian's ruckus was equivalent to exposing the alliance's fig leaf. They couldn't continue to lie to themselves. They could only brace themselves and discuss official matters. After all, we are the alliance that came to save the emperor. We have to put on a show. Jiang Pingji smiled. Life was finally not boring. Before no one exposed them, no one took the lead. Everyone lied to themselves and others, slacking off whenever they could. Now that Yang Jian had caused trouble and exposed the fact that they were slacking off, they could only pack their bags and go back to work. On that day, alliance leader Su Bei invited all the powers to discuss important matters. This time it wasn't about eating, drinking, or watching a dance. Some people were indifferent, watching the show, while others were rubbing their fists, eager to give it a try. Under the leadership of the alliance chief, Su Bei, everyone gathered together to discuss how to rescue the emperor and annihilate the traitors who had brought chaos to the imperial court. Some people suggested attacking Prince Changshu first. Only by killing him could Qinzhou be safe. Someone suggested entering Qinzhou first and finding a way to ally with the forces there to resist Prince Changshu's forces. There were also people who suggested attacking Prince Changshuo's base in Zhangzhou to see if he would come to the rescue. The first two suggestions were reasonable, but the last one was simply a joke. Yan Lin glared at his best friend. Yang Tao, who had suggested the funny idea, shrunk his neck and shut his mouth. After discussing for a while, no one was able to reach a consensus, because no one could convince anyone else. Listening to the strategists from various families bickering, Jiang Pingji had the urge to fall asleep. She raised her sleeve to cover her mouth and yawned. She squeezed out 2 drops of tears from the corners of her eyes. Then, as if nothing had happened, she put down her sleeve and continued to daydream. She had the audience in the streaming room. These idle people could chat with her and kill time together. The others didn't have such a thing. How did the others endure such a boring and long meeting? Jiang Pingji was daydreaming when she heard someone mention her name. She subconsciously raised her head to look at the other person. Although she was daydreaming, the audience in the streaming room recorded it for her. The bullet screen was filled with handwritten subtitles typed by the audience. Rose Legend, Streamer, Master Yuanjing said that you studied at Langyi Academy and that Master Yuanjing valued you. He felt that we should work together, so he asked if you had any good suggestions. Damn, why did this fellow suddenly drag the streamer into this? She was calm and composed without any flaws. No one noticed that she was daydreaming. I can't say that it's a brilliant idea, but I do have some suggestions. Jiang Pingji named a few feudal lords and pointed out their strengths and weaknesses in a concise manner. Finally, she said, the alliance has a large number of soldiers and generals. They're independent. If we force them to merge even with the alliance's command, I'm afraid they won't be as flexible as normal armies. So, in my opinion, I suggest that we split our forces. One group will reinforce Qinzhou. One group will contain Prince Changshuo's forces, another group will provide support from the side, and then another group will take a detour and attack Prince Changshuo's rear. Because of the lack of cooperation between the 23 forces, they couldn't unleash the combat power of 400,000 soldiers and horses. Since that was the case, it was better to split their forces, display their flexibility and play to their strengths and avoid their weaknesses. However, as soon as she finished speaking, an old general faintly mocked her. If we split our forces like this, won't we be waiting to be defeated one by one? Our army has 400,000 soldiers. Why don't we attack the enemy directly and capture him alive? Why do we use a roundabout strategy? A young man is a young man. You're just showing off your ability to be an armchair strategist. Jiang Pingji laughed as she threw away the dried fruit in her hand. I'm an armchair strategist. Old general, you're illiterate. Based on what you've said, why don't you say that our army has 400,000 soldiers who can descend from the sky and crush the enemy into minced meat? That each person can drown him with their spit? You. The old general had never suffered such ridicule before. His temper flared up and he wanted to draw his weapon and fight her to the death. Dian Yan and Li Yun were not to be outdone. They stepped forward to protect Jiang Pingji. The entire tent was filled with the smell of gunpowder. Qing Jing, who had suggested to listen to Jiang Pingji's opinion, was speechless. He had only heard of Lu Shi's sharp tongue and how he deserved a beating from others, but he had never heard it with his own ears. Only now did he understand why others always gnashed their teeth in anger whenever this person was mentioned. His tongue was too cheap, comparable to Feng Zhen's. It was not easy for Su Bei to be the leader of the alliance. He could not sit idly by and let the two of them really fight. Su Bei stood out to be the peacemaker. Lanting, it's not impossible to split our forces. Old General's suggestion isn't bad either. Thus, Su Bei received a look of disdain from Jiang Pingji. He was a fence-sitter. Su Bei coughed softly and said, now that Qinzhou is in a state of emergency, we don't know how much longer we can hold out. We should end the battle quickly and kill the enemy as soon as possible. It's not advisable to delay. The longer we delay, the more danger His Majesty will be in. Lanting's method is safe and secure, but it will take a long time. As for the old general's suggestion, I agree with it. Our alliance has 400,000 soldiers. Every one of them is unafraid of death and hardship. They are brave and skillful in battle. As long as we work together, we will be able to destroy the enemy as easily as crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. We will restore our country and restore order to the imperial court. Hearing this, Jiang Pingji secretly snorted. Chapter 719. Mr. You really have a divine foresight. These mobs are really useless. Prince Xianxia was initially very fearful of the alliance's military strength. It was a military camp that stretched for 200 miles. Just looking at it made him feel cold. He thought that the allied forces would attack once they were almost gathered. He didn't expect that they would still be dawdling in the same place. For several days they had been indulging in pleasure, singing and dancing. How could they have the slightest intention to attack? In the blink of an eye, 5 to 6 days had passed. Prince Xianxia was overjoyed. According to Meng Zhan's plan, they would pretend to not make a move and use it to confuse the allies. They would let them continue to be in a safe environment where there was no threat. Secretly, they would send a surprise attack to the hinterland of Qinzhou. As long as they took down the emperor and ascended to the throne, Prince Xianxia could then, in the name of Dongqing's emperor, confer titles on the various feudal vassals of the alliance army. This would break their unity from within and the alliance army would collapse on its own. Now everything was going according to plan. How could he not be happy? Meng Zhan was wearing a pure black Confucian robe. He held a closed jade bone fan in his hand. The surface of the fan was old and the pendant was worn out. This jade fan was his son Meng Liang's favorite treasure. Now it had become a medium to remind him of his father. Meng Zhan sneered, "Don't be too relieved, Prince. This isn't over yet. This morning, our scouts reported that there have been some changes on the alliance's side. Due to Yang Jian's provocation, he scolded them for being lazy and greedy. The alliance has lost face and is preparing to attack Jiamen Pass." After Prince Xianxia heard this, his face suddenly turned pale, as if he was covered with a thick layer of powder. What should we do? How can a mere Jiamen Pass resist these traitors? Jiamen Pass was the only way to enter Qinzhou from Huangshui County. With the help of the Meng family of Zhangzhou, Prince Xianxia had already conquered 20% of Qinzhou's territory. Now he was in a stalemate with the imperial court at another checkpoint. If they could break through Jiamen Pass, the allied forces would catch up with Prince Xianxia's army in less than 2 days. At that time it would be troublesome if they attacked from both the front and back. Meng Zhan's lips were still curled into a cold smile. He said, "What are you afraid of? Because they chose Jiamen Pass, we could attack Qinzhou with peace of mind. If the alliance chose to split up, it would be troublesome." Jiamen Pass was located at the crossroads of the mountain range. The terrain was steep and the mountains were undulating. At the Jiamen Pass, 2 mountains stood opposite each other. They were steep and shaped like a gate. This is not a good place to fight. Prince Xianxia was anxious. It was true that Jiamen Pass was easy to defend but not easy to attack. But the enemy had 400,000 soldiers and they could easily break through. "Sir, the allied forces are outnumbered. I'm afraid that Jiamen Gate won't be able to hold them off. If they are willing to use manpower, impossible," Meng Zhan said decisively. His eyes were cold. "Your Highness, you overestimate their integrity. They are a bunch of greedy people who would be willing to sacrifice their soldiers and use their dead bodies to clear the way for others. No one is willing, so your Highness can rest assured. Jiamen Pass could hold off the allied forces for at least half a month. Half a month's time is enough for us to overturn the universe and help you ascend to the throne." There were many elites in the alliance, but they were too selfish. Who knows how many elites will die here in front of Jiamen Pass, huh? Meng Zhan gently tapped his palm with the jade bone fan. His eyes were full of sharpness with strong killing intent. Jiamen Pass has always been easy to defend and difficult to attack. I wonder how long it will take for the allied forces to take it down. The allied forces broke camp and set up camp outside of Jiamen Pass. Jiang Pingji and Huang Song went out to patrol with their men. Looking into the distance, they could vaguely see Jiamen Pass through the fog. Jiang Pingji's eyesight was excellent, so she could see even more clearly. She noticed that there were many new signs of destruction near the gate. Not long ago, Jiamen Pass was still under the control of the imperial court. The general station, there was also an experienced general. He had used the natural defenses to keep Prince Xianxia's army at the pass. No matter how Prince Xianxia challenged them, the general refused to come out. He was determined to defend the pass to the death. Unfortunately, Jiamen Pass had been breached. Huang Song knew that Jiamen Pass was easy to defend and difficult to attack. He was curious about how Prince Xianxia had broken through. Did he rely on numbers? Feng and the others also came out for some fresh air. They also wanted to gather information about the enemy and find some inspiration. Does my lord know what happened? He asked Jiang Pingji. Qing Jing and Feng Ju secretly looked at each other. Did they ask the wrong person? Under such circumstances, shouldn't the lord ask the strategist? Why is the strategist asking the lord? Jiang Pingji narrowed her eyes. It should be fire. Huang Song asked. According to the scouts, there are indeed traces of fire outside Jiamen Pass. But the weather hasn't warmed up yet and the snow hasn't melted yet. Besides, there are steep cliffs around the pass. All the trees and weeds have been cleared and there is still snow. How could they have set fire to Jiamen Pass? Under such circumstances, there was nothing to burn even if they wanted to. Jiang Pingji's lips curled into a sarcastic smile. Yang Si and the others all thought of a possibility. It's the corpses. She gave the answer. Yang Si was speechless. I wonder who came up with such a sinister plan. Corpses were flammable. There was fat under the skin. Once they caught fire, the fire would be very strong and difficult to extinguish. In an attack on Jiamen Pass, the attackers would definitely lose the most corpses. Was Prince Xianxia crazy? How could he use the corpses of his own soldiers as fuel to burn Jiamen Pass? How would I know? Jiang Pingji smiled. I used to work for Prince Xianxia. Is there anyone who fits the bill? In the past, Yang Si might have thought that Jiang Pingji was bringing up the past. But now he was too lazy to think about it. That was just how his lord was. Yang Si thought hard and said, I don't remember. When he was working for Prince Xianxia, he was the one with the most sinister thoughts, alright? Maybe he came later, Feng Zhen said. Jiang Pingji thought for a moment and smiled. Based on the time, I don't think he worked for Prince Xianxia. According to my analysis, the person who came up with this evil plan has something to do with the Mengs. Maybe it was Meng Zhan himself. After all, he is indeed a sinister person. Huang Song was confused. Why does it have something to do with the Mengs? Jiang Pingji smiled but didn't say anything. Qing Jing said, just look at the results of Prince Xiangxia's battle with Qinzhou. Before the Mengs joined the battle, Prince Xiangxia was already showing signs of weakness. He even wanted to retreat. But after the Mengs joined the battle, Prince Xiangxia became stronger step by step and quickly turned the situation around. His subsequent deployments were much more brilliant than before. He must have been instructed by an expert. It's possible that the person who came up with the plan to break Jiamen Pass was the work of the same person. Huang Song nodded as realization dawned on him. He couldn't help but shiver and get goosebumps when he thought about the possibility of the enemy using corpses as firewood to break through Jiamen Pass. That's true. That person is too evil. You're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.